Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting Egbon Tech tutorial where you're going to learn how to build an advanced authentication system from scratch. Now, authentication is a very important part of software development because without authentication, you cannot actually protect your application from unauthorized users. But authentication is actually very confusing when you just get started because you don't know how everything comes together, and also you don't know how to actually implement security. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a robust authentication system from scratch. Now, this authentication system is going to have all the modern features you find in your web application. We're going to have credential signing where user can sign in with their email and password. We're going to have Auth signing, Google signing, and GitHub signing. And also, you're going to have essential features that all web applications should have. A forgot password features where users can actually go to the forgot password page and actually receive a forgot password link. Okay, and also we're going to implement email verification so that every users that actually registers in your application have to actually verify that they actually own the email to actually prevent spamming of your database. And also, we're actually going to add a feature that all modern websites should have, a feature that most YouTube tutorials actually skip. You're going to learn how to implement two-factor authentications so that when users turn on two-factor authentication on their account, they're going to have a two-step signing process where they have to fill in their email and password, and also they have to actually receive a 6-digit OTP code to their registered email, and then they have to fill in the 6-digit code to actually complete their sign-in process. So with that being said, I'm going to actually show you how this authentication system is going to work. So basically, we don't have an account right here, so I'm going to create a new account. So when users want to create an account, users can just go to the sign up page. Now, we're not just going to be building a robust auth system, we're also going to implement form validation and also form handling. We're going to make use of React Hook form for form handling and also Zod for form validation. I won't try to sign up an account actually filling anything. We're going to get an error. Name must be at least 2 characters, enter a valid email, and password must be at least 6 characters. So until we type in a name, I'll say Peter Parker, that's only when that error actually disappears. And for the email, I'll just use this email right here, and then we have to select a password. Now, when we type a password that is actually less than 6 characters, we're actually going to see the error until we type a password that is actually greater than 6 characters. And also, we're going to have a confirm password field. Now, when we type something that does not match the password, it's going to give us an error. Passwords do not match, and we'll not be able to actually submit the form. So when we actually type in a confirm password, a password that is actually equal to the password we type in, then we'll be able to sign up a new account. So I just click on sign up right here. We get the registration success, then it's going to route the user to the sign in page. Now, users will not be able to sign into their application without actually verifying their email. So when a user registers to this application, the user is going to get an email verification notification. Okay, and the user actually click on the link in that verification email to actually verify their email address. So when I head to my Gmail inbox, I'm going to see a new email right here from Egbon Tech. Verify your email. Welcome. Please verify your email address to get started. I won't click on this right here. We're actually going to see the email. Welcome to our platform. We're excited to have you on board, Peter Parker. Welcome. Thank you for signing up. So we just have to click on this verify email address to actually verify that this is our email address. So I just click on verify email address. After the email verification, the user is going to be automatically signed in into the application. Now, if a user fails to verify their email, they will not be able to log in with that email address. They're going to get an error, email not verified. Now, we were able to actually sign in after email verification because we actually verified this email address. So now, when a user forgets their password, the user can simply go to the forgot password page and actually fill in their mail. So I'm going to fill in this mail right here. And then I'm going to click on send reset link. I'll click on that. And then we're going to get this message, reset link sent, check your email. I want to head back to my Gmail inbox. I'm going to get a new email right here, Egbon Tech, reset password, reset your password. We receive a request to reset your password. So I'll click on that, and then we can actually see the reset password link right here. It says someone requested a password reset for your account associated with this mail. If this was you, click the button below to reset your password. If you didn't make this request, you can safely ignore this message. So I'll click on reset password right here. And then it's going to bring us right here to the reset password page. And now I can fill in the new password and also update. I'll click on reset password. I'm going to actually reset the user's password. You can see right here, password reset successfully. We're going to go back to the login page and actually sign in with the user's new password. And we've signed in successfully. We're not going to stop there. We're actually going to implement two-factor authentication. Now, when users want to actually turn on two-factor authentication to improve the security on their account, they can actually do that. So we can click on enable two-factor authentication. Now, for users to actually enable two-factor authentication, they have to actually fill in their password. So I'll fill in this user's password. Now, if the password is wrong, when I click on confirm enable, it's going to show to the user invalid password. So the password has to match the user's password for the user to actually turn on two-factor authentication. And you can see we get two-factor authentication enabled. And you can see right here that the two-factor authentication is actually enabled. Now, when we log out this user and try to log in with this user again, I'll log in with this user. I'll click on sign in. It's going to take the user to a two-factor authentication page. Now, based on the fact that the user now has two-factor authentication turned on, the user now has to sign in with 2 steps. The first step for the email and password. For the second step, the user has to fill in the 6-digit OTP code sent to their email address. So now when I enter my Gmail inbox, I actually get a new email right here, 2FA OTP code. Now when I click on that, I'm actually going to see the OTP code right here. So I'm going to copy this 6-digit OTP code. Now when we go back to our application, we'll try to fill in a wrong OTP code. I'll click on verify code. We're going to get invalid code. Okay, until we fill in the correct OTP code, I'll click on verify code. That's only when we're able to log in successfully. And we can also turn off the two-factor authentication, fill in the user's password, and then just confirm the disable to actually disable two-factor authentication. Alright, you can see that two-factor authentication has been disabled for these accounts. If you're excited by this tutorial, smash on the like button and leave a comment below. It's going to help the YouTube algorithm to push this content to more people like you who are going to find it very, very helpful. And basically just consider this as a very, very little way for you to actually support this channel. And lastly, if you've not subscribed, ensure you do that and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on the next tutorial on this channel. Let's dive into the video. So basically, you actually have a lot to cover in this video, so you have to get started immediately. So the very first step we have to take, we have to actually spin up a new Next.js project. So for that, I'm going to head over to next.js.org, the official Next.js documentation. I'll click on get started right here. And it's going to bring us right here. You can read through what Next.js is, but I'm more interested in installation. So I'll go to installation right here. And to actually install Next.js, you have to actually run this command. Now, this command can run this command with pnpm, npm yarn, or bourne. Okay, so from package manager, I'm going to be making use of pnpm package manager. Okay, but you can actually follow along with npm too. I'm just going to copy this command right here. Pnpm create next app at latest. Now, if you're using npm, you're going to copy this command nps create next app at latest. I'm using pnpm, so I want to copy this right here. So now I'll go back to my application. I just open up a new terminal, and then I'm just going to paste this right here. Pnpm create next app at latest, and then add a dot slash like that. This is basically instructing the command to create this project inside this Auth tutorial folder I have open in my Visual Studio Code. And then I just click on enter. And we're going to be asked some questions. If we want to actually use the recommended defaults or want to customize our settings, I go to customize settings right here. So for customizing our settings, we have to specify if we want to make use of TypeScript. Okay, we want to write type safe code, so we're going to use TypeScript. Then for our linter, which lint do we want to use? I'll make use of ESLint. Then for our compiler, would you like to use React compiler? No. Would you like to use Tailwind CSS? Yes, we want to make use of Tailwind CSS. Would you like your code inside the SRC directory? Yes. Would you like to use app footer? Yes. Would you like to customize? No, we don't want to customize that. Do you want to use? No, we don't want that. No. And then it's actually going to start installing the dependencies we need. After the installation process, we're going to get all these dependencies. You can see the dependency that was actually added. Next.js version 16.2.2, React version 19.2.4, and React DOM version 19.2.4. And then you also see the dev dependencies right here. And also, after that, it's going to actually generate the types or type generated success. And also, you're going to initialize a Git repository for us. And then we're going to get this success right here, created Auth tutorial. Great. So now to actually run this application, I'm going to do pnpm run dev like that. And now you just have to follow this localhost 3000 to actually open this up in a web browser. And now when it actually compiles, you actually see the default Next.js project. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get rid of all this, okay? So we can actually start working on our application. So get rid of the files and the code we do not need. So I'm going to go to this src right here. I'll go to page.tss file, which is this file we just opened on the web browser. I'll just get rid of this div right here, and then we just return a h1 tag that's going to say auth tutorial. Save that, and then we'll get rid of this next image import right here, and then we'll head over to the css. Now we don't need all the css classes, so we get rid of this. We just need this import tailwind css right here. Just save this file, and then I'll go to the layout.tss file. Great. And now inside this layout file, this is what's going to act as the root layout of our application, which means whatever styles we apply or whatever components we output in this layout file is going to be output globally in our application. So this is basically the root layout file. So now we actually update this. First of all, I just get rid of this right here. I don't want to use these fonts. I'll create a variable const poppins is going to be equals to poppins, which we're going to get from Nest fonts. The variable is going to be .fonts poppins subsets. It's going to be Latin. Then finally, for the font weights, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, and 700. And then right here, instead of using these fonts that came with the Next.js application, I'm going to make use of poppins.class name. And also we can actually update this to the title of the page. I'll say this is going to be auth tutorial. And then for the description, I'll say auth tutorial by Egbon Tech. Okay, by Egbon Tech. And now we'll go back to our application. We should actually see that the font is actually applied. We see this text right here, auth tutorial. So now what I want to do right here, remember I said that any style we apply in this file right here is going to apply the global in the application. So we want to actually give this a custom background. I'm going to get rid of these styles right here on the body, and then I'll give this a BG gray of 950 like that. That should actually apply that background right here. Okay, BG gray of 950. So the very first chapter of this video, we're going to work on the UI for the login page, that's the sign in page, and also the sign up page. And that's very simple. We're going to go over to our app folder. Inside this app folder, we'll create a folder which is going to be auth like that. Okay, now we are creating this auth folder inside this app folder, and also you can see right here we're making use of this bracket around it. Now this bracket is to tell Next.js that we don't want this auth to be shown in the URL, which means when we do something like /sign-in, it's going to actually render the sign-in page instead of we doing something like auth/sign-in. Okay, so that bracket is going to ensure we don't have to call the auth. And then in this auth folder, we're going to create a sign-in folder and also create a sign up folder, okay, for the registration page. And then inside the sign up folder, we're going to create a page.tsx RFC. So now when we go to our application, when we do /sign up, go to /sign up, we actually see that page right here. You can actually see we have the page right here, sign up page. And then I'll call this component sign up page. Now we're going to create a form layout component for all our form, our sign up form, forgot passwords from sign in form. Okay, so they actually look similar. So now we're going to create a layout component for the sign up page and the sign in page. Okay, that's going to be visible in all our auth pages. Now that's very simple. We go to src app. Inside this src folder, we're going to create a folder called components. And then inside this components folder, we'll create another folder called layouts. And then inside this layout folder, I'll create a component called form layouts.tsx. RFC. Just get rid of this import right here. And now we have to actually specify the types of the props this layout is going to take, this component layout is going to take. So up here, the interface, form layout props. It's going to take a title that's going to be of type string. Take another prop called subtitle, which is going to be of type string. And then it's going to take a children prop, which is going to be of type React node. And then right here, we're just going to pass the type right here, form layout props. And then with the structure and the title, is going to pass to this component the subtitle and also the children. And then in here, we just return a div tag, which we're going to give a tailwind class, a main h screen, flex, items, center, justify, center, py of 10, px of 4. And then in here, create another div, which I'm going to give a tailwind class. I give this a width of full, a maximum width of MD, a BG of gray 900. Give it a border property. Then give the border color a border gray of 800. Rounded of 2XL. Shadow of XL. And then a padding of 8. Now this part is going to be the header of the card, of the auth card. Then we'll create a div, which we're going to give a tailwind class, margin bottom of 6, text of center. And then right here, we're going to put a h1 tag. And this h1 tag is going to output the title we are passing through as a prop. And we'll give this h1 tag a tailwind class, text of 2XL, font of semi-bold, text of white. And then I'll put a paragraph tag, which is going to output the subtitle. I give this paragraph tag a tailwind class, text gray of 400, text of XM, and a margin top of 1. And then after this div, we just output the children of the component we're actually wrapping this layout around. So we're going to make use of this form layout inside this sign up page right here. So we're inside this sign up page, instead of outputting this div, we're going to return the form layout like that. I remember anytime we call this form layout, we need to pass 3 props: the title, the subtitle, and the children. So for the title, this is going to be, the title is going to be create an account. And then for the subtitle, we'll say sign up to get started. And then for the children right here, just put a h1 tag that's going to say sign up page. Okay, so you can actually see this properly. I'll give this a tailwind class of text of white like that. I'll save that. Now we'll go to our application. We actually see the UI right here. Create an account. Okay, great. So now we actually see the layout right here, and whatever we output as the children in here, as the children of this layout, they're going to be rendered right here. Okay, where we have this sign up right here. So I'll just get rid of this h1 right here. We're going to create our first input. The label for this, get rid of this, is going to have a tailwind class of display of block, a text of XM, text gray of 300, a margin bottom of 1. And then we simply just an output name. And then after the label, we're going to output an input that's going to be of type test. The placeholder is going to be John Doe. Basically telling the user what to actually type, okay, their full name. And then we'll give this input a tailwind class Now the styles for these inputs are going to be dynamic, so I'm going to make use of backticks. The static styles are very long, so I'll just paste them right here. We're going to give this a width of full, 1/3 of LG, a BG of 800, a border, a PX of 4, PY of 2.5, text of XM, text of white, placeholder gray of 500. When it's focused, we're going to give it an outline of none. The input is focused, and also a ring of 2. And also, this is going to be part of the dynamic styles. But for now, I'll just add this right here. We're going to give it a border gray of 700 and the focus ring of T500. Okay, you can actually see these styles right here. You can get these styles from the source code. I'll save this, and we should actually see that this actually looks really, really good. It looks really, really good. The next input is going to be for the email field. So I just drag this down. Let me type email, and then the placeholder is going to be you at example.com. Okay, basically telling the user the format on how to actually view their Gmail. Okay, so that's the placeholder, and then we'll just change this label to email, and then we'll drag this down one more time. There's going to be type password. The label is going to be password, and then for the placeholder I'll just use asterisk. I should actually see that the input is actually coming to life, but they are too close to each other. So what we're simply going to do, we'll just cut everything we have here. We'll just create a form tag, get rid of this action, and then we'll just paste those input inside the form tag, and then we'll give this form tag a tailwind class of space y of 5. Okay, save that, and that's going to add vertical spacing to the input, and this actually looks really good. So now I'm going to add the next input, which is going to be the confirm password. So I'll just drag this down, and this one is going to be of their password. The label is going to be confirm, spell that confirm correctly, confirm password. That's basically it. And we should actually see that input right here, confirm password. Now after this confirm password input, we're going to add a button tag, and the button is going to be of type submit. Then the button is going to output sign up. Then we're going to give this button a tailwind class. Give the button this tailwind class is right here, a width of full, a BG of T500. On hover, we're going to give it a BGT of 600, transition prop, the text of white, font medium, a PY of 2.5, 1/3 of LG, a display of flex, items of center, justify of center, and on disable, give it opacity of 70, and save that. And we should actually see the button. Great. I'll just add a cursor of pointer to it. I'll give this a cursor of pointer like that, so ensure, yeah, it's actually better this way. Great. So we have the little pointer way over on the button. Now after the form, we're going to create a divider. Now here I'm going to create a div, which we're going to give a tailwind class of margin vertical of 6, flex, items, center, gap of 2. In here I'm going to create a div with a self-closing tag. We'll give this div a tailwind class of display of flex, a height of 1 pixels, BG gray of 800. And after that, I'm going to output a span tag, which is going to simply say all continue with. Then I give this span a tailwind class, text of XX, and a text gray 500. And then I copy this right here, I paste that right here. Okay, great. So now we have our divider. When we save this, we should actually see that divider right here, and we cannot actually see the line. Oh, that's because we are giving this a flex. This is going to be a flex of 1. We're telling this to occupy as much width as it can. Okay, flex of 1. That should ensure, yeah, we actually see the lines right here. Sign up with credentials or continue with socials. And after this, we're going to create the option for a social auth, create the UI for that. Now here, I want to create a div. We'll give this div a tailwind class of grid cause of 2, which means we want 2 columns per row, and then we want there to be a gap of 3 between the items. Now the first item is going to be a button tag which is going to be of type button, and then we're going to give this a tailwind class. I just paste the classes right here. We're giving it a display of flex, items of center, justify of center, gap of 2, a border grid of 700, on hover bg grid 800, on hover again border grid of 600, transition prop 3 text white py of 2.5, padding vertical of 2.5, 1 of lg and text of xm, and then in here we're going to put an icon. Let's put an icon and also the name. Okay, so we're going to actually install an icon library. So I just do that, do pm install React icons like that, and that command is actually going to install React icons right here, version 5.6, and now run our server again, pm1 dev to run our development server. Great, so I just cover this up. So right here we're going to add an icon fc Google, which I'm going to get from React icon fc. Up here I'm going to import the fc Google from React icons fc, and then we'll give this a tailwind class of width of 5, height of 5, and then after that down here we'll just put this text right here, Google. Great, and we should actually see that on the UI. Actually see the Google sign in button right here. Also just add a cursor of pointer right here, and then after this right here we'll just drag this button down, and this one is going to be continue with GitHub. So if you want to sign in with your GitHub account, and for the icon it's going to be FA GitHub, which you're going to get from font awesome. Okay, get FA GitHub from React icons font awesome. I'll just format this, save this, and now we should actually see the GitHub sign-in button. We see the Google sign-in button and the GitHub sign-in button right here. Finally, we're going to add the footer. Okay, so down here, I'll say this is going to be the footer of the form card. Down here, we'll create a div. We'll give this div a tailwind class, text of xm, a text gray of 400, a text of center, and a margin top of 6. In here, we're going to put already have an account. Then we're going to get link from next link. The href is going to point to /sign. Okay, so if the user already has an account, then the user can actually go to the sign-in page. We'll give this a tailwind class of text deal of 400. So I spell that deal correctly. Text deal of 400, and on hover we'll give it a text deal of 300, and then in here we just put sign in like that. We should actually see that right here, but they are too close to each other, so I'm going to add a space between them. Simply just going to do this right here to add a space between these two items. Yeah, I already have an account, sign in, and now when we click on this sign in, it's going to take us to the sign in page. So we're going to be making use of React Hook Form and Zod. We're going to make use of React Hook Form to handle the form input. Okay, also handle the form submission to our server, and also we're going to make use of Zod to actually validate the form efficiently. So we're going to install those library. So I'll just open up this terminal right here. I'll stop this development server. I'm simply going to do pm install Zod React Hook Form, and then now we have to install a package that's going to help us connect Zod and React Hook Form, because these are two different libraries, and that library is called @hook form /resolvers. Then just click on enter. You can actually see the packages right here: hook form resolvers, React Hook Form, and also Zod. So we just run our server again, pm run dev like that. Close up this terminal right here, and now up here we can actually first of all create our Zod schema. Up here I'm going to say const form, spell that form schema is going to be equals to
Z, we're going to get Z from Zod. Import Z up here from Zod. Z dot, we're going to create an object, Z dot object. Inside this object, we're going to have a name. This name field is going to be Z dot string dot main. We want a minimum of 2 characters. And then we'll specify another field, which is going to be the email field. This is going to be Z dot email. After that, we'll specify another field, which is going to be the password field. This is going to be a string, Z dot string. And we want the minimum value dot main to be 6, okay, which means there needs to be at least 6 characters for a password to be valid. And then we'll specify a confirm password field, which is going to be Z dot string. And then after this object right here, we're going to say dot refine. Now, why are we doing this dot refine? We want this password to be equal to this confirm password. So we want to actually validate this. We call data. We're going to say if data dot password is equivalent, we're going to refine where data dot password is equivalent to data dot confirm password. The message is going to be passwords do not match. Then right here, we're going to say path confirm password. Now, this additional refine is to add custom validation between the password field and the confirm password field to ensure that they are actually equivalent. Now, if they are not equivalent, it's going to display this error: passwords do not match. I use capital P here. Passwords do not match. And now this part is very important. Now this part tells Zod where to actually display the error. Now we want this error to be displayed under the confirm password input, not the password input. So we have to specify that right here. It has to match this confirm password name right here. And I can actually add custom messages. For this one, I want the message to be name must be at least 2 characters. For this one, we're going to say the message is going to be enter a valid email. And then for this one right here, we're going to say the message, the custom message we want to add is going to be, just copy this custom message for the name. I'll paste that right here. It's going to be password must be at least 6 characters long, like that. So with this, we now have the form schema, okay, the Zod form schema for our form. So now we're going to make use of React hook form and actually connect our form to the React hook form. So how do we do that? Up here, we're going to say const, we're going to destructure what we're going to get is going to be equals to use form. And we're going to get that use form. Up here, we're going to import use form from React hook form. And then in here, we're going to say the resolver, because we need the resolver to actually connect our React hook form to Zod so that both of them can actually communicate. So we're going to say the resolver is going to be Zod. We're going to tell React hook form that it's going to be a Zod resolver. And we're going to get that Zod resolver from at hook form. We're going to import Zod resolver from at hook form resolver / Zod. And then in here, we'll just pass in the form schema. Okay, this form Zod form schema we created. Now we are not done. We have to actually specify the React hook form type. So now we can actually create a custom type, or we can actually generate the type from this schema. We can infer the type from this schema. So let's do that. So up here, we're going to create type form data is going to be equals to, we do z dot infer the type of form schema. Okay, so we are extracting the type from this form schema we created. So from this form schema, I'm going to extract that type, so this form data, and then we just pass this form data as a type for our use form. Now to the point where we have to actually connect React hook form with our form. How do we do that? We do that by registering the input with React hook form. We're going to get register, we'll just try to register from use form, and then down here we're going to say dot register. We're going to call register, And then we are going to do this. You can see we actually get the auto completion, confirm password, email name, and password. Now the reason we are getting this auto completion is because we are passing this form, this form data form to this React hook form. So with this type we pass, React hook form knows the type of input to actually expect. So now when we actually call the register, it's going to actually give us the auto completion. Okay, for this one, it's going to be the name. And then I want to register the email. So it's very simple. Just do ... register and then email, like that. Same thing with the password. We just do ... register password, and finally for the confirm password, ... register, and then it's going to be confirm password. So that's basically it. We've actually connected our inputs to React hook form, and we've actually handled our input. That's all we have to do. So now next, what we have to do is that we have to actually handle the submission. But we've already connected React hook form to this input. So right now React hook form is going to actually track changes in this input. So up here, we're going to create a function that's going to fire when a user actually submits the form. So I'll say const on submit. It's going to be equal to an async function. And this function is going to take, anytime the form is submitted, it's going to take a data that's going to be of type form data. And we are getting this form data from this type right here, from data. And for now, it's just the console.log the data. Okay, the data that this function is going to take. So now, how do we submit the form? It's very simple. We're just going to say on submit. Then we're going to get handle submit from React hook form. Okay, so where we destructure this register, in the same place, we're going to destructure the handle submit from React hook form. And then right here, we're simply just going to do handle submit, and then we'll pass the on submit function. Okay, this on submit function right here is going to be capital S. This on submit function right here. So I just format this. So now we've actually handled our form, and we actually validated the form, and we actually get an error. Export use form doesn't exist in target module. I think we are unable to actually import this because we're inside a server environment. So up here, we'll just convert this to a client component using this use client directly from Next.js. Save that, and I just refresh, and we actually see the input right here. So now I'll just console.log the data. We're actually logging the data already. So I just console.log the data. For the name, I'll just use something random. The email, I'll use a valid email address. The password, I'll use 12345678880. Then for the confirm password, 123456778. Then click on sign up, and I'll just go over to our console. I'll actually see the data right here. Okay, so we actually handled our input. See the confirm password, the password, the email, and the names. So we successfully handled the input using React hook form. Now, when we actually submit the form without actually filling on any of these inputs, you click on sign up, you can notice that the form is not actually submitted. Now, the reason for this is because, remember, we're already adding validation to our form using Zod up here. Okay, so we're already adding validation with Zod, which means React hook form is not going to actually submit this form unless the form is actually filled. So now I want to actually expose the errors to the user so that the users know what's actually wrong, why they cannot actually submit the form. So we're going to output errors for the name field, the email field, the password field, and the confirm password field. And that's very simple. Let's do that. Now we're going to go over to our React hook form. Just the way we are destructuring this register and this handle submit form, this use form, we're going to destructure out form state. And from this form state, we're going to destructure out errors, like that. So with this errors object, we're going to have access to the errors for the name field, the email field, the password field, and the confirm password field. So I'm going to scroll down. I'll first of all output the errors for this input right here. I want to say if errors dot, and we'll get the auto completions, errors dot name. Then we're going to render a paragraph tag. I give this paragraph tag a tailwind class of text xx, margin top of 1, and a text red of 400. And then right here, we're going to output the errors dot name dot the message from the error. And also we're going to add dynamic styles to this input right here. Okay, because when there's an error, we want the border of the input to be red. So we're going to get this on focus red steel So we're going to get this right here. I'll just cut this off. Then right here, I want to add a dynamic style. I'll check if errors dot name. Okay, then we're going to render this as we're going to render this styles we actually cut. So if there's error, we're going to do a border red of 500, and on focus, we'll do a focus range red of 500 like that. Okay, save that. And now we'll go back to our input. We'll click on sign up. We actually get that right here. Name must be at least 2 characters. Now, where are we getting these custom messages from? We're getting these custom messages from this custom message we add right here. Name must be at least 2 characters. So let's actually add the errors to this other input. So for the email, I'm just going to scroll all the way down. I'll copy this right here. Then under the email input, I'll paste that right here. This is going to be errors.email. And then this is going to be errors dot email dot the message. And then for the custom styles, I'll just copy this one too. Copy this. I'll get rid of this one, the static styles, and then I'll just paste that right here. But this is going to be errors dot email like that. I'm going to do the same thing for the password. We get rid of this right here. We'll paste that right here, and this is going to be errors dot password. And then for the last one is going to be, so just get rid of this static styles right here. Place that right here. So if errors dot confirm password, then we're going to actually output that. And now we can copy the paragraph tag. Then we'll paste that underneath this input right here. And it's going to be errors dot, if there's errors dot password, then we're going to display errors dot password dot message. And also down here, we have to put the paragraph tag. If there's errors dot confirm password, we're going to output errors dot confirm password dot the message. Okay, let's save that. And now we'll go back to our application. When we don't fill on any of these inputs, we actually see the error. Name must be at least 2 characters. Enter a valid email. Password must be at least 6 characters. Great. And now when we fill on this right here, I'll just say John Doe, the name of the user. Then for the email, we fill something. I'll say test@gmail.com. Then for the password, I'll just do 0 8 times 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. For the confirm password, I'll do 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Now I'm going to add an extra 0 and I'm click on sign up. And again, we're going to get the error password do not match. So until we actually get rid of that extra 0, the confirm password has to match the password. Okay, great. So this is actually working. So now we have the sign up page. Let's actually create the sign in page. So I'm going to copy basically everything we have here. We're going to go over to this sign in folder, and then we'll create another page. I'll create a page.tsx, and then we're just going to paste that right here. And then we just have to update some stuff. First of all, we're going to update this to sign in page. And now when the user clicks on this, it's going to take the user to the sign in page. We'll click on that. It's going to bring us right here to the sign in page. So we just have to update the details of the form. So we'll start with the title. The title is going to be welcome back. Then we're going to get sign in to your account like that. We're still going to do the handle submit, and then up here we have to get rid of some feeds because we do not need the confirm password to actually log in. We do not need this extra refine, and also we do not need this confirm password field, and we do not need this name field. For the sign-in page, we just need the email and the password. Then the name is going to remain from schema. Then yeah, everything looks okay, and we just have to get rid of this input, this name inputs, and get rid of the confirm password inputs like that. And that's basically all. Then we just have to change this button label to sign in. Then the divider is going to be continue, not, we didn't spell that word correctly. It's going to be continue. continue with Google or GitHub. Then this is going to be don't have an account. I'm going to make use of an HTML entity, ampersand APOS, comma, don't have an account. Then you can actually sign in. Okay, save that. And now I'm going to check the output again. I will get that right here. Don't have an account. Okay, don't have an account. Sign up. Don't have an account. Sign up. We get the social buttons. We get the sign in button. Great. So we have the sign in page. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to actually work on setting up Prisma and setting up our database. I'm going to head over to prisma.io because we're going to be making use of Prisma to actually interact with our Postgres database. I'm going to make use of the Postgres database on Prisma. Now, first of all, you have to actually install Prisma. So I just scroll down. I go to Postgres that fits your stack, and then we have to select the framework we are working with. Okay, so I just click on Next.js right here. And then I'm going to scroll down. Now, the very first step, we have to actually set up a new Next.js project, which we actually have done already. Okay, we already have a Next.js project. So now, we just have to actually install and configure Prisma. The very first command we have to run is going to be this command, pnpm add Prisma TSS and types Postgres. Now, this Prisma, we are basically installing the Prisma CLI, so we can actually use Prisma in our command line interface. Then this TSS is if you are using a Node.js environment, so actually watch changes on your file. Since we are using Next.js, we don't need this TSX. And then these are types, is basically types for Postgres. Okay, I'll just copy this command right here. Now, if you're using npm, you're going to copy this command, npm install Prisma TSS and types Postgres. If you're using yarn, you're going to copy this. If you're using bomb, you're going to copy this. Okay, great. So I'm using npm in this project. So I'm going to go over to my terminal and just reopen my terminal. Then I'll just stop our development server, and then I'll paste that right here, and we have to get rid of the TSX. We don't need this. And then we're going to do pnpm add Prisma attach Postgres, and then we're going to do, because we want to install this as dev dependencies, dash save as dev dependencies, and then we'll just click on enter. And that command is actually going to install the types pigeon, so the Prisma CLI. And we're going to be making use of these two packages as dev dependencies, okay? And now we're going to go back to Prisma. And for the second step, we have to actually install Prisma client, Prisma adapter Postgres, .env and Postgres. So I'll go to pnpm, I'll just copy this right here, and then I'll go back to my CLI, put that right here, and click on enter. And that command is going to install these packages for us. So for the next step, after we've installed this and this, we have to actually initialize Prisma in our project. Once installed, initialize Prisma in your project. That's very simple. We're just going to copy this command, pnpm dlx Prisma init. Go over to our terminal, just paste that right here to actually initialize a new Prisma project in our Visual Studio Code. So I just click on enter. Now, this command we just run is going to actually do three things. We'll go back to documentation. You see a Prisma directory with a schema.prisma file. It's going to create a Prisma folder right here. This Prisma folder with a schema.prisma file for us right here. And then it's going to create a Prisma config.ts file, which is going to be this Prisma config.ts file right here. And then lastly, it's going to create a .env file that's going to have a variable database URL. Okay, when we go to that .env file, you can actually see the database URL right here. I'll just get rid of all these comments right here. We don't need all this. We just need this database URL. Now, this database URL is pointed to a localhost port 51213 database, which is a local database, but we're going to be making use of a live database. Okay, so we're going to replace this string later on. So we'll go back to documentation. After that, we have to actually define our schema. Now, to define schema in Prisma is very simple. You can actually see the structure we have to actually follow to actually define our schema. Now, our model is going to be created by us by BetterAuth. We'll start our BetterAuth installation, but I'm going to create a model so you can actually see how to create a database schema in Prisma. So we're going to go over to the schema.prisma file. And to create a model is very simple. We're simply just going to do model. Now I want to create a model called user. Now for every model we create, we have to specify a primary key. So the primary key for this is going to be an ID field that's going to be of type string. It's going to be @ID, it's going to be an ID, and then at default it's going to be a CU ID. okay, which means it's going to be a random string. Each user is going to have a random string as their ID. Now this is going to be the primary key for this particular table, because when we push this to Postgres, this user mode is going to convert to a user table. And then after that, we can specify a name field and say this is going to be of type string. And then we can specify an email field, which is going to be of type string. And now we want each email of a user to be unique in our database. So we're going to make use of the @unique from Prisma, which means this email field is going to be unique and each user is going to have a unique email. And then we can add a created @, which is going to be a date time, and it's going to default to now. Okay, the current time the resource was actually created. And then down here we're going to do @map, specify the name of this, because if we don't actually specify the name of the table is going to assume this name is going to be capital U. And for our Postgres, we want it to be something like this: users. Okay, great, users table. So we have to specify that right here. So that's how you create a schema with Prisma. For the next step, we have to actually push this schema we just created. We have to migrate these or push these to our database. Now we don't have a database here, so let's actually create one. So I'll go back to the Prisma homepage. I'll just click on login to log into my dashboard. Now after logging in on your Prisma, now it's actually free to create your account. After you create your account, you're just going to go over to this project right here, this project tab right here, and you're going to see your previous project. So I'm going to create a new project. I call this project Auth tutorial, and then we're just going to click on get started. Click on get started, and then we have to specify where we want our server to be. Now I think the closest to me is going to be this Europe Paris right here. I'll click on that, and then just click on create project. Great, so we've actually created a new project. And now to connect this project, this database to our project, we just click on connect right here, and then we're going to get this connection string. So I'll copy this connection string. I'll head back to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to go to this .env file. I'm going to get rid of this default string right here, and then I'll paste our connection string right here. Okay, so now we've actually connected to the live database. We can actually now push our code to that live database. Now we can do pm dls migrate dev to actually migrate this, but I'm going to do db push, okay, because I don't want to create a migration file or a migration table. So I'll just open this up. I'll do pm dlx prisma db push. Okay, it's basically going to do the same thing with migrate, but it's not going to actually create a migration file. So I just click on enter. Now after that, we're going to get this message: your database is now in sync with your Prisma schema. And now I want to go back to the database we created. I'll go to Studio right here. We should actually see a user table right here. We see the ID field, the created that, the email, which is type text, and the name field. Great. Now that's basically how easy it is to actually create tables with Prisma by just creating creating a schema for the models, and then pushing that to your Postgres database. Now we're going to go back to the Prisma documentation. After we actually push the code to push the schema to Postgres, we have to actually run Prisma generate to generate the Prisma client. So I'm going to copy that code right here. I'm going to go to our terminal, I'll paste that right here. We have to generate the Prisma client that we can actually use to interact with database on the client. So I just click on enter, and that's actually going to generate the Prisma client. Now for the next step, we have to actually create seed for our database. I'm going to jump this step, and then we're going to go to this step right here. Okay, we have to create a Prisma instance, because basically anytime I want to interact with Prisma, we have to call this Prisma instance. We're going to create right here. Now you really don't have to worry too much about this, because we are going to be using BetterAuth to actually interact with our server. BetterAuth is going to actually handle that for us, but we still have to create this Prisma instance, because we're going to pass this Prisma instance to BetterAuth. So basically what it's telling us to do is to create a live folder. Inside that live folder, create a prisma.ts file. So we're going to go over to our SRC folder. We're going to create a lib folder, and then inside this lib folder, we're going to create a prisma.ts file. And then we're going to copy this code right here, and then we're going to paste that right here. And then I'm going to get rid of this right here. We have to actually install. Remember I said that we're going to use that Prisma client we generated. So where is that Prisma client? That Prisma client was actually generated. We'll go to SRC. We have this folder generated that's going to be on track by Git. This is the Prisma client we actually generated when we ran pnpm dlx Prisma generate, and then we're going to import this Prisma client from that at generated Prisma client. Okay, great. So now we have this Prisma instance. So anytime we want to actually set up BetterAuth, we have to actually use this Prisma instance. That's how BetterAuth is going to connect with our Prisma and our models. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to actually work on actually setting up BetterAuth. So we're going to head over to the BetterAuth documentation. I'll just click on Docs right here. And then I'm going to go to installation. And then to actually install BetterAuth, we first of all have to run this command, pnpm add BetterAuth. Now, if you're using npm, you're going to do npm install BetterAuth. So I just copy this command right here. I head over to my terminal. I just open this up. And then I'll just paste that command right here, pnpm add BetterAuth. Now, after that command is actually going to install BetterAuth version 1.6.0. And then right here, you're going to notice that it says that if you are using a separate client and server setup, make sure to install BetterAuth in both parts of your project. Basically, what this means is that if you are using BetterAuth, if your client and your server are in different projects, maybe you are using a React frontend or a Vue frontend, and your backend, maybe Elysia or Express. Now, since we are making use of Next.js, which has the client and the server in the same setup, in the same project, we're going to install this once. And then for the second step, we say we have to create a BetterAuth secret. So just generate that secret. It says a secret value used for encryption and hash. It must be at least 2 characters generated with a high entropy. Generated with high entropy, click the button below to just generate one. Just copy that and we'll just paste that in our environment variable .env, and then we'll paste that right here. And also we have to actually set our base URL. So I'll just copy this base URL right here. I'll paste that right here, and this base URL is basically the URL that BetterAuth is actually going to run. Okay, the server URL. Now, for now, this is going to be localhost for 3,000. But when you want to deploy your application, you're going to update this BetterAuth URL to your domain. This is going to be your domain URL. And then right here, the next step is that we have to create a lib or utils folder. And inside that lib or utils folder, we're going to create an auth.ts file. Since we already have a lib folder, we'll just create the auth.ts in here. Auth.ts like that. And what are we going to place inside this auth.ts file? Just scroll down. We're going to configure the data. It's BetterAuth requires the database to store user data. You can easily configure BetterAuth to use SQLite, but we are not using a database. Remember, we are using Prisma. We're using an ORM. So we're going to scroll down to ORMs right here. It says that alternatively, if you prefer to use an ORM, you can use one of the built-in adapters. So we have the Drizzle adapter, and then we have the Prisma adapter. So I'm just going to copy the code for the Prisma adapter, and then I'll just paste that right here. And then we're not going to instantiate any new Prisma clients. We're going to get this Prisma. Remember I said that we're going to be making use of the Prisma instance we created. So we're going to import that Prisma instance from Prisma right here. From this Prisma instance we created right here. Okay, so we're going to import that in here. So now we've actually connected BetterAuth to our Prisma, and we can get rid of this up here. And then we're going to change this to Postgres. We are making use of a Postgres database. And also we're going to save this environment variable. So now we'll go back to BetterAuth. Now we have to actually create our tables, because remember I said that we're going to use the BetterAuth CLI to actually generate our schema we need for authentication. So we're actually going to do that now. So basically what we're going to do, we'll just copy this command right here. pnpm dlx auth latest generate. This is going to generate the models we need for authentication in our schema.prisma file. So I'll go over to our schema.prisma file. I'll just get rid of this model we created to actually demonstrate how to create a model. I'll get rid of this right here, and then I'll just paste that command right here. pnpm dlx auth at latest generate. I'll click on enter. Now it's going to ask us if we want to really overwrite our schema. I'm going to type Y. You're going to type Y right here to say yes, and then it's going to really overwrite our schema. And you can see right now that BetterAuth has already generated the models we need. You can see the user model, the session model, the account model and also the verification model. So now we're just going to push this to our database. We just do pnpm dlx prisma db push, click on enter, and then we're going to get your database is now in sync with your Prisma schema. And now we'll go back to our, so now we'll head back to our Prisma database. I'll just go to our studio right here. I'll just refresh the studio. You should actually see the tables right here. We have the accounts table, the session table, the user table, and the verification table. Great. And now we just have to rerun the Prisma generator, generate the Prisma client for these new models. Okay. So I just do pnpm dlx prisma generate like that. And our Prisma client is actually generated. Great. So now we're going to go to the next step in BetterAuth. After we actually generated this right here and push the schema to our database and generate our client, then we have to actually set up the authentication methods. We're going to actually start with the credentials method. And for the credentials method, we have to actually set this email and password. Now, we're not going to do this now. We're actually going to do this when we actually start working on the basic usage. I'm going to show you how to actually implement the credentials method and also the social providers method. So I'm going to scroll down, and now we have to actually mount the handler. Now, the way this is going to work is that any auth request we send, any sign-in request, sign-up request, or sign-out request, they are going to be handled by BetterAuth. Okay, so we have to create a heart handler to handle any auth request we are sending. So I just copy this code right here. Inside the app folder, we're going to create an API folder. We have to create an API folder. So inside this app folder, I'll create an API folder, and then inside this API folder, we'll create an auth folder. And inside this API folder, I'm going to create an auth folder. And then inside this auth folder, we're going to create a catch all. That's going to be ... then all. Let's do that. Create a catch all route. It's going to be ... I'm going to name it all. And then inside this catch all route folder, we're going to create a route.ts like that. And then we just paste this code right here, which is going to handle all our auth requests. This is the API endpoint, so to handle all our auth requests. And then after that, we have to actually set up the auth client, because, and the reason we have to set up this is because this auth.ts instance we created up here, this auth.ts file right here, we can actually make use of this auth instance inside a server environment. We cannot make use of this auth instance inside a client environment. So to actually ensure we can make use of BetterAuth in a client environment, we have to create the client instance. So we're going to create a file called auth client. It's our lib folder, authclients.ts. And then inside this auth client, we just copy this code right here, and then we just paste that right here. Now it says that the base URL of the server is optional if you are using the same domain. Now since we are using Next.js, which means our server and our clients are in the same project, we can get rid of this base URL and just create the client like this. Okay, I'll save this. And that's basically it. We've actually set up BetterAuth. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to work on registering a new user. So we're going to go back to the BetterAuth documentation. We're going to click on this basic usage right here. I'll click on basic usage. It's going to bring us right here on how to actually set up BetterAuth. And if you want to make use of the email and password, this is how we're going to do it. So I just go to I'll go to authentication right here. You can actually see authentication, then email and password authentication. I'll click on that right here. And we can actually see how to actually implement email and password authentication. Now, if you want to implement the email password authentication in BetterAuth, this is the very first step we have to take. We have to set the email and password objects to enabled. Okay, so we just simply just copy these. We're gonna go to our auth instance. We just go to src lib. I'll go to this auth.ts file, and then right here after this database right here, we just paste that underneath here after this database connection right here. Okay, we're actually connecting to our Prisma ORM. We'll paste that right here. Email and password enabled is going to be true. And then we're going to go back to BetterAuth. It says that if this is not enabled, if enable is not set to true, it will not allow you to sign in or sign up with email and password, which means without being actually setting this to true, we'll not be able to sign in or sign up using credentials which is email and password. And now for the sign up, this is how we can actually sign up a new user. If you want to do it on the client, you can see how to do it. And if you want to do it on the server, you can actually see how to do it. So we're going to go back to our project. We go to just save this .ts file. We're going to go to our sign up page. I go to src app auth. I go to the sign up page.tss file right here. So this is where we're actually going to write the code to actually sign up a user. So right here, inside this onSubmit function, I'll get rid of this console.log right here. Then we'll say const of the structure we're going to get is going to be equals to, we're going to make use of auth client. We're going to get auth client, import auth client. Up here, we're going to import the auth client from the auth client we created right here inside our live folder, this auth client instance right here. We're going to import that auth client instance inside this function right here. And we actually have to await this because this is going to be a network request. I'm going to await auth client dot sign up dot, we want to make use of the email method. And now anytime we call the email method, we have to pass a name, and this name is going to be the data dot name that from our React hook form. We have to pass an email, which is going to be data dot email, the user actually imputed. Then you have to pass a password, which is going to be data dot password, like that. And then we're going to destructure at the error. And then down here, we're going to check if we get an error. If there's an error, so spell that correctly. If there's an error, when we are trying to create a new user, register a new user, we're actually going to toast that error. So you have to actually install React Hot Toast. So I'll just actually open this up, say pnpm install React Hot Toast, like that. And that's going to install the React Hot Toast package for us. So I just want this server again, pnpm run dev, like that. Close this back up. And now we have to actually set up the toaster components. Now we want this toaster component to be accessible everywhere in our application. So remember I said that any component or styles we apply inside this root layout file is going to be applied globally. So inside this body tag right here, inside this body tag, we're just going to call the toaster. Okay, I'm going to import toaster. I'm not getting the auto completion, so I just import it manually up here. I'll say import toaster from React Hot Toast, like that. I'll just get rid of this unused imports right here. I actually have to destructure this at from the library. Okay, we have to destructure at toaster. Okay, great. Save that. Destructure at toaster from React Hot Toast. And then now that we have this toaster right here, we can actually use this toaster globally in our application. So right here, if we get an error, we're going to toast the error. Tools, we're going to get tools from React Hot Toast, tools.error, and then we're going to output the error, the message of the error. We're going to output that as a string. And then we'll just return right here. If we get an error, we'll just return, break the code right here. Now, if the user is created, we're going to do toast.success. We're going to say registration successful, like that. And then we're going to route the user to the sign in page. So up here, we're going to get router from Next router. Up here, I'm going to say const or create a router instance. It's going to be equals to use router, which we're going to get from Next navigation. Up here, we're going to import use router from Next navigation. And then down here, we simply just want to route the user. Router does push the user to / the sign in page. So after a user creates a new account, the user is going to be routed to the sign in page. Okay, if it's successful. But if it's not successful, we're going to actually toast the error and then we'll just return right here. Just format this. So let's actually test this out. I'll go back to my application. I'll just refresh. And then we just go to the sign up page. And we are not actually going to the sign up page. We didn't actually update this URL in the sign in page. So I'll just go to page.tss file. This is going to be / sign up, like that. Now we won't click on this sign up. It's going to take us to the sign up page. Great. So now I won't try to submit the form. We're going to get an error. The name field must be at least 2 characters. Enter a valid email. Password must be at least 6 characters. And then I'll just fill this up, John do. Then for the email, I'll say tests@gmail.com. Then password 1234567 1234567 1234567 confirm password, and then just click on sign up, and we get a registration successful, and it's going to route the user to the sign in page. Now, when we actually submitted the form, when we created a new user, we didn't actually see a loading for this code. Now I want to show a loading to signal to the user that their account is being created and the request is being processed. So to do that, we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code, go to our sign up page right here. Now, just where we are destructuring these errors, from this form state, we're also going to destructure as is submitting. Now, this is the state from where I took form. It's going to tell us if the form is being submitted and also if the form has been submitted. Okay, it's basically a loading state. So I want to go back down where we have this button right here. Instead of this sign up, I just cut this off. I'm going to render this condition, and I'm going to say if it's submitting. If it's submitting, then I want to render this text. Else I want to render sign up right here. Now, if it submits, we're going to render creating accounts ... Else we're going to render sign up. And also, if it's submitting, we're going to disable the button. So if it's submitting, we'll say if submitting, then the button is going to be disabled. If submitting is true, the button is going to be disabled. So I'll save that. I'll go back to our application. I'll just fill this up again. John Doe, then email tests. I'm going to make use of the same email so we can actually check the error handle if it's working. And for password, I'll do 1234567 1234567. And now when we click on sign up, we see that creating account right here, and it shows an error. Email user already exists, use another email. Great. Now I've already created the user, so when we go over to our database, go to this user table right here, we should actually see a new user with test@gmail.com. The user ID that was created on the database, the email verifier is going to be false. Then we have the name of the user. Okay.
And now we actually registered a new user. When we go over to our cookie, session cookie, go to application, we should actually see a BetterAuth cookie right here. Okay, which means the user is actually authenticated. So I'm actually going to delete this off. I'll just delete this off. Now the reason we are deleting this off is that we don't want users to be signed in automatically. Okay, we want users to actually verify their email before they actually signed into the application. So to do that, we're going to go to our auth.ts file. Go to auth.ts right here. Now inside this email and password objects, all we just have to do is say we're going to do require email verification. We're going to set that to true. Okay, which means user have to actually verify their email before they can actually sign into the application. And then after this email and password object, we're going to create another object, create an email verification object. In here, we have to specify when we want the email verification email to be sent. So I say send on sign up. Okay, so when user sign up, that's when we want to send the email verification. I'll set that to true. We want to send email verification to the user immediately they sign up. And then we're going to say auto sign in after email verification, set that to true, which means if the user has verified their email, then we're automatically going to sign the user in. So next, we're going to have to create a function to actually send the email verification. So I'm going to head over to the BetterAuth documentation. I head over to authentication, go to email and password right here. Now after we've actually created a new user, you can actually see all we have to do. I just go to email verification right here. Okay, now for email verification, you can actually see what we have to do to actually send an email, and you can actually see that we have to require email verification. We already did this. We require email verification. Okay, so it's going to actually require email verification, and then yeah, I think that's basically it. So now to send an email, this is how we're actually going to do it. Okay, we're going to do this in this way. So basically what we're going to do, we just copy this right here, copy this right here, the send verification email right here, and then we'll just paste that underneath here. But we do not have this send email, so just get rid of this. So we're going to get rid of what we don't need. We don't need this request, and we do not need this token. We just need the user and the URL. and we are destructuring it from this send verification email right here. Great. So now we're going to be making use of resend to send emails, and also we're going to make use of React emails to actually create our email component. Okay, so they actually look really, really nice. So we're going to actually install those dependencies. So I just open up my terminal. I'll just stop this for now. Do pm install resend and at React email /components. I'll just click on enter. And that's actually going to add the React email components for us and the resend. Now we're going to make use of this React email components to create the UI for our email template. And then we're going to make use of resend to actually send the mail to the user. Great. So I'm going to head over to resend.com. Now, right now, I actually logged into my resend account. So it's going to bring me straight to my dashboard. But if you've not logged in, so I'm going to open this in a private window. So I can actually show you how to actually sign into resend. I'll open this in a private window. Now, I'm not actually logged into. Now, if you don't have an account with resend, it's very simple. You simply just have to get started. Click on get started. It's actually free to create an account, okay? And the free plan is actually very generous. I think I send about 3,000 emails a month, something like that. It's actually very, very generous. So I'm just going to close up this private window. Inside your dashboard, the most important thing right now is going to be these API keys right here. This is where you're going to create the API key you actually want to use to connect to your resend, okay, so that resend can actually send mails on your project. Now it's very simple. I think after you create an API key, you can actually copy that API key. You can only copy the API key when you actually created them. So let's actually create an API key. To create an API key is actually very, very simple. Just click on create API key right here. You have to specify the key name. I'll say Auth tutorial Tech. And then I'll just give it full access. Then I don't have any domain connected, so I just click on add right here. It's actually going to create this API key. So where are we going to make use of this API key? We're going to make use of it in our application in an environment variable. Okay, so let's actually set up resend. So I'll just go over to our lib folder, src lib. I'll create a file called resend.ts. Then in here I'll say export. I'm going to export the resend instance comes resend. Create a variable called resend. It's going to be equals to new resend. I import resend from, I'm not actually getting the auto completion, so I just import it manually. Import the structured resend from resend. Now, just the way we created our Prisma instance, we're actually going to make use of this resend instance. Okay, that's why we're actually exporting it. So now inside this auth.ts file, we'll be able to make use of that resend. And now inside this resend right here, we have to actually specify our API key. Now we can just pass the API key directly here, but that's not going to be safe. So what we're going to do, we're going to make use of an environment variable. So in here, we're going to say process.env dot. We're going to call the environment variable resend API key, like that. And then I'll just copy this name right here, actually creates the environment variable. So we'll go over to our .env file. Down here, you're just going to paste your resend API key right here. You're going to copy your resend API key, and then you just paste that. And ensure you copy this, because after you click on done, you'll not be able to copy the API key anymore. So just copy this right here and then paste your API key right here. Now, after adding your resend API key right here, next API key we're going to add is going to be email sender address. And also we're going to add the email sender name. Now this is going to be the email address we are sending the mail from. That's the email address that's sending out the mail, and this is going to be the name that's going to be shown, okay, for the company name. For mine, I just do Tech, okay. This is what we want the name to be, Tech. And then for the email sender address, now for production, you're going to place your own business email, something like info@yourwebsitename.com or support@yourwebsitename.com. That's going to be your sender address after you actually register your domain with resend. But since we are working on local development, we cannot actually use domain. We have to make use of the we have to make use of the domain provided to us by resend. Now for the email sender address, we're going to use this right here. Now for local development, this is what resend actually provides for us to use for local development. Onboarding at resend.dev. Now, when you want to deploy your application, you have to actually register your domain with resend. After you register your domain, you will be able to use your own email. Okay, so you could have something like info@yourwebsite.com or support@yourwebsite.com or whatever. It could be your name at yourwebsite.com. Then you have to register that domain. Click on done. You have to register that domain right here with resend. Okay, after you register the domain, you'll be able to actually send emails from your own domain. But for local development, resend actually allows us to use this right here, so we can actually send mails when we're actually developing our application. Great. So now we have the email sender address and the email sender name. So I'll copy this email sender name right here. We're going to go over to our auth.ts, where we're actually sending the mail. In here, we're going to do resend. We're going to get our resend instance. This resend instance we created inside this file right here. Resend.emails.send. First of all, we're going to specify the form address. We're going to make use of backticks. First of all, the form, say process.env. We'll paste the email sender name right here. Then after that, we use this right here. Then in here, we're going to output process.env. We'll get the email sender address. Paste that right here. Okay, so this is going to be the form. So when we send the email, it's going to show to the user and the name, the company name, or the name you want to use, then the sender address. And then after that, down here, the subject of the email is going to be email verification. And now we have to specify the template we want to use. Do we want to make use of HTML for our main template, or we want to make use of React components? So I want to say React, okay? And now we have to actually create this React component for the template for our mail. Now remember, we already installed React email components, so we can actually create a component using React email components, our mail component. There's actually an easy way to do this that Reset actually provides. Now, Reset actually has a new platform that we can actually use to actually create email template easily. So we're going to go to new.email. Now, it's actually a very simple website that's going to help us to actually create mail templates. Okay, now instead of us to manually create the email templates ourselves, Reset provides a way in this website, new.email, for us to actually create the email template. All we just have to do is write a prompt to this AI, the type of email template we want. So we want to say create an email verification template with a verify email button, like that. So just click on enter, and it's going to actually start creating the component. After it's done creating, we're going to get the template right here. Okay, verify your email address. But I said to have you get started first, you need to confirm your account. Okay, so just go to code right here. We're just going to copy this code right here. So now we're going to go back to our application. We'll go head over to SRC component. In here, we're going to create a folder called emails. And inside these emails, we're going to create a verify email.css component. Then we'll just paste that right here. Okay, so now we have to get rid of the things we do not need, which is going to start from this. So just get rid of this. And then up you have to specify the pop types, the interface, verify email props. We'll pass a username that's going to be of type string. And also I'm going to pass a verify URL that's going to be of type string. And then we can get rid of these values right here, these default values. And right here, we'll pass the type verify email props, space verify correctly, verify email props. And then we can destructure out the username and also the verify URL. So now we can make use of that in here. So we can simply say right here, when we say hi there, I'm going to say hi, then the name of the user, hi username. Then where we have this verification URL, we just do, it's going to be verify URL like that. And then we can actually pass that to right here in case the user wants to copy the URL, verify URL. And we're getting a TypeScript error type string. Oh, we're actually saying this is, yeah, we're using capital case here. It's going to be lowercase x. Okay, type string. Great. And then I'll just scroll down. Where are we getting errors again? Okay, we're getting errors right here. Say, thanks for signing up. Please verify your email address. Is going to be, okay, I think we have to pass the user email too. So we just get that too. So just say, we'll pass the user email, okay, which is going to be of type string. And then right here, we'll just destructure out the user email. Okay, great. So all the errors are actually gone. Now for the warnings, we can ignore. This is due to the fact that we are making use of Tailwind version 4, and these styles are from Tailwind version 3. So when you hover on this, it's simply going to tell you that instead of using margin bottom of 32 pixels, use margin bottom of 8. So you can actually correct this. But I'm just going to ignore this because I'm not actually teaching Tailwind CSS. So I'll just format this. Great. So now we have our email component to actually send emails, and we actually exported that email verification component. So we're going to make use of this email verification component inside this auth.ts file. So what we have is we have right here. We're just going to call the, what did we actually call the component? Email verification. Just call the email verification component like that. And don't forget, we have to pass 3 props. We have to pass the username, which is going to be, remember we are getting the logged in user from here, destructuring the logged in user. We have access to the details of the logged in user. So the username is going to be the user dot the name of the user. The user email is going to be the user dot the email of the user. And lastly, you have to pass the verify URL, which is going to be the URL. Okay, this URL right here. Now we are not done. Now we just have to specify who we are going to send this email to. So right here, we're going to say to, this is going to be the final step to send the email. We're going to send this to user dot the email of the user. We want to send it to the logged in user email address. Now for production, this is going to work when you have your domain registered. But since we are working on local development, we cannot actually send mails to registered users. We can only send mails to a specific email address we want to use to actually test if everything is working fine. So since we are making use of this onboarding at vcent.dev, we can actually send production emails to log. We cannot send production emails to registered users. So we can actually send the emails to a specific email address we want to actually see if the email is working. So we're going to actually do something like this. Just add your own email, test@gmail.com, like that. Add your own email address. It's going to send the email to your email address so you can actually get that verification link. But I'm going to make use of my own email address. So now after doing that, we've actually configured the email sending method. Okay, so now when we register a new user, we should actually see an email. So I'm just going to open this up and do pnpm run dev to start up our development server again. And then I'll just close this up, and then I'll refresh our application. You actually see this sign up. So now we have to actually sign up with a valid email. So I'm going to go to a website, temporaryemail.app. And this website is going to generate a valid email we can actually use, a temporary valid email we can actually use. So I just copy this email right here. I head to our application. I'll say the name of this user is going to be Jane Doe. Then the email is going to be the email we just copied. Then for the password, I'm going to make use of 0, 8 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then for the confirm password, do the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now I'm going to click on sign up. Now, after we sign up this user, a mail is going to be sent to the user. Okay. So I'll just click on sign up right here. We get the registration success, and it's going to add us to the sign in page. And now, when I actually open up the email address actually used for this, you can see right here, we actually get a new email verification from Egbon Tech. I won't click on that email verification. And now we can actually click on this verify email address button to actually verify the email, or we can actually copy this link. Now, some users may actually prefer to actually copy this link, so that's why we actually added this additional link right here. So to actually verify this user email address, we just click on verify email address, and then it's going to ask the user back to the homepage of our application. Now, how does BetterAuth knows the homepage of our application? Remember, in our .env file, we have this localhost 3000 as our base URL. So that's the homepage. So BetterAuth is going to redirect us back to the homepage. Okay. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to work on the sign-in functionality. Okay, so we want users to be able to sign in with their registered email and the password. So we're going to go to src app auth. In here, we're going to go to the sign-in page.css file. And this is going to be similar with what we did in the sign up page. So just get the one we did over here. Just copy this one. So basically, we're going to copy this on submit right here. Just copy everything we have from this on submit right here. We'll just copy this. We'll take this to the sign in page. We'll get rid of this on submit, and then we'll just paste this on submit right here. And then we'll just import the auth clients. And obviously, we do not need the name because this is going to be signing, which we just need the email and the password. So we're going to say auth clients.sign in, and then we're going to toast. Get those from here at host toast, and then we're going to create a router instance, which we're going to do up here. Const router is going to be equals to use router, which we're going to get from Next navigation. And yeah, we also have to change this to login successful, and then right here we just do / create a page called dashboard, which we obviously don't have. But when user signed in successfully, we're going to route the user to the dashboard. So I think that's basically it. We've already handled the errors. Yeah, that's basically it. Sign in. And then if there's an error, we're going to toast the error. So for now, we're going to leave this like this. Okay, so we're just going to log in the user. If there's an error, just show the error. Then we're going to route the user to the dashboard. But when we actually implement the two-factor authentication later on in the video, I'm actually going to rewrite this logic. But for now, I'm going to leave this like this. And I'll go back to our application. I'll just go to /sign in. And then I'll just delete the BetterAuth cookie. Delete that off. And now we can actually log in a user. Now, if we use a email, we use test@gmail, the email we registered earlier on, test@gmail.com, and then we just use a random password. Click on sign in. And we're going to get invalid email password, okay, which means the password is actually wrong. So I'm actually going to update the loading state for this. If it's submitting, so I just destructure out the is submitting, then we'll just scroll down to the button, this button right here. I'll just cut this off. I'll say if it's submitting, then we're going to render this text as we render sign in. So if it's submitting, we're going to render sign in like that, and then disabled is going to be equals to is submitting. I keep getting this annoying auto completion. I want to fill this up, test@gmail.com, then password. I just use something random. We actually get that load is signing in, and we get invalid login credentials. So when I actually use the password, we use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 8 zeros. I click on sign in. We still get invalid email. I think we use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sign in. Yeah, we get email not verified. So what I want to do, I want these errors to be displayed right here at the bottom right corner. So I'll go to that toolstar component. Just go to src app, go to the root layout file. Then this toolstar right here, I'll say position, I'll say bottom right. So I'll click on sign in. Yeah, I want it to be displayed right here. Email not verified. That's because we didn't actually verify this email. We'll go to our tables.
You can see right here that in our database, we have this email not verified. So now I'm going to copy this other email. I try to log in with this other email. And obviously, we do not have that dashboard page. So let's quickly create that. Let's go to SRC app. Inside this app folder, I'm going to create another group route protected. Now, the reason we are grouping this is that these are going to be files for guests, for when users are not actually logged in. And then these protected are going to be the pages that are going to be protected by authentication. The pages you don't want an unauthenticated user to actually see. So inside this protected, we're going to create the dashboard page. So I'll create a folder called dashboard. Then inside this dashboard folder, we're going to create a page.tsx like that. I will see. I'll just call this dashboard page. Give this a tailwind class of text white. Great. So now, after we successfully sign in the user, we're going to route to that dashboard page. So we're going to go back to our application, and then we're just going to use the email of the user that we actually verified, and then I think it's actually 8 zeros, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 zeros. I click on sign in. We get the login successful because the user is actually, the email of the user is actually verified, and it's going to route us to the dashboard page. Great. So we're just quickly going to create the dashboard UI. So we'll go to the dashboard page. We're going to create a div in here. We'll give this div a tailwind class. Just get rid of this weird imports. Tailwind class of minimum height of H screen, a text of white, px of 4, and padding vertical of 8. And then inside this div, we'll just create another div in here. We'll give this div a tailwind class, maximum width of 4xl, mx of auto, and space y of 6. Now in here, we're going to create the header of the card. So we're going to create a div down here, which we're going to give a tailwind class of flex items center justify of between. Inside this div, we're going to have, first of all, attribute h1 tag. I'm simply going to say dashboard, and then we'll give this h1 tag a tailwind class, text of 2xl, a font of semi bold. And then after this h1 tag, we'll create a button tag, which is going to output log out, and then I'll give this a tailwind class. The classes are long, so I'll just output them right here. Okay, we're going to give this a bg red of 500, hover bg red of 600, transition px of 4, py of 200 of lg text xm, and the font of medium. I'll save this, and now we'll go back to our application. We actually see that logout button, and we see the dashboard text right here. Great. After this div for the header, just wrap this, create the user card. It's going to have the details of the logged in user. So now you're going to create a div tag. We're going to give it this tailwind classes right here, a bg gray of 900, a border gray of 800, 100 of 2x, a py of 12, px of 6, and 100 of lg. And then inside this div, create another div also have this tailwind classes right here, and then in here, and this is where we're going to output like the profile picture of the user. Since we're not outputting the profile picture of the user, we're going to use the username of the user. So now we have to get the details of the logged in user, so we can actually output it right here. So up here, I'm going to say const, I'm going to structure what we're going to get. So actually get the session of a user in BetterAuth, we're going to make use of our auth client, because this is going to be a client component. Let's just convert this to a client component. So up here, we'll say use client. We're going to auth client dot use session. Okay, so with this, we can actually get the details of the user. So we're going to destructure out the data. Now this data is going to contain the session of the user, so I just rename it session. And then in here, we can simply just output the session dot the user dot the name of the user dot character at 0. So we are getting the first character from the user's name. So now we'll go back to our application. You actually see J, because this is actually either John Doe or Jane Doe. but it actually starts with a J, so we're going to see that J right here. And obviously, you actually notice the delay before you actually load it, the details of the user. That's because BetterAuth has to pull the details of the user from the database. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually create a loading screen. So now, to actually create a loading screen, because when BetterAuth is actually pulling the details of the logged in user from the server, it's going to actually take 2-3 seconds for it to actually fetch the data. So we can actually output a loading screen. Now to get that loading state from BetterAuth, we just destructure out is pending. So with this is pending, we can actually display like a loading screen. So down here, I'm going to say if is pending, then I'm going to return. I'll return a component called loading screen like that. And obviously, we've not created this component, so let's actually create that quickly. SRC components. In here, we're going to create a component called a folder called loading. And then inside this folder, we'll create a component called loading screen.tsx. RFC. Just get rid of this. Now I'm not going to spend much time creating this loading component, so I just paste the styles right here. Now you can actually get this directly from the source code. Okay, so now I will go back to the application and refresh. You can actually see that loading before the details actually put in. Great. So now after this div right here, we're going to create another div. In here, first of all, we're going to output a h2 tag, which we're going to give a tailwind class, text of LG, and a font of medium. And then we just output the session.user.the name of the user. Then after this h2 tag, we're going to output a paragraph tag. Give this a tailwind class of text gray of 400 and a text of XM. And then we just output the session.user.the-email of the user like that. So that's how you access and actually output the details of a logged in user on the UI. And we actually have to add some styles to this. So I just cut these two divs right here. I'll place them in a div because I want them to be in a flex container. I'll give this div a tailwind class of flex items center and gap of 4 like that. So now that's basically how you pull the details of the logged in user from the database using BetterAuth. So next, we're just going to work on the logout functionality. So that when we click on this button, we can actually log out a user. So that's very simple. Just create a function up here, say const handle log out. So it will be equal to an async function. In here, we're just going to do our wait of client dot sign out fetch options. Inside this fetch options object, we're going to have access to on success. Let's go to fire a callback function. Now, when the user is successfully signed out, what do we want to do as the callback function? We want to actually route the user to the sign in page. So up here, we're going to create a router instance console. Router is going to be equal to use router, which we're going to get from Next navigation. And then right here, we're just going to do router dot replace route the user to /sign in like that. And then we're just going to copy this handle logout function. And then we'll just scroll the way down. Where is that logout? That's logout button. We just do on click. Just paste that handle logout right here. So now when we go to our dashboard, we'll click on logouts. We're going to actually log out the user. Now we'll go back to our, you can see right here, we don't see the cookie anymore. Okay, it's actually going to clean up the cookie and log out the user. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to work on the forgot password and reset password functionality. Now we're going to head over to the BetterAuth documentation, head back there. We're going to head to reset password request and update password. I'll go to reset password request. And now I say to allow users to reset a password, first you need to provide send password reset function to the email and password authenticator. The send reset password function takes a data object with the following properties, okay? Which means we have to actually configure a send password reset email on our BetterAuth configuration. So basically, we have to set this right here, send password reset, just the way we send our email verification email. We have to send a send password reset email, and then we're going to have another one on password reset. Now, this is basically a callback function we want to run when a user successfully actually sets up their password. Now, I'm not actually interested in this, so I'll just copy this right here. And then we head back to our auth.ts file, go to src lib auth.ts right here. And then after this enables true and require email verification true, we just paste that right here. And then obviously we're not going to make use of this email function. We're going to create our own function to send emails. Now we're not going to need this request, so just get rid of this. And also we do not need this token. Okay, we just need the user and also the URL where the user is going to actually click on to actually reset their password. Now we're going to do this in 3 steps. First of all, we're going to configure this mail right now, and then we're going to actually create the page where user can actually fill in their email to actually get the mail to actually receive their password reset link. Okay, and then we're going to create the password reset page to actually update the password. So for the very first step, we're actually going to work on this mail right here using resend. So in here, we're going to say resend.emails. We're going to send an email. Now the form is going to be similar with our email verification. Okay, it's going to be the same form address. Subject is going to be reset password. And now we have to actually create the template. Okay, the email template. So we're going to go over to component, emails. We create another component. We're going to call these password reset email.tsx. And now we're going to go back to new.email. Go over to new.email. We just go back to the home page. We want to create another template. Now we're going to say create an email template for a forgot password email with a password reset button, like that. Enter. I'm going to actually start creating the template for us. Now after that, we're actually going to get the template right here. Actually see the template. The template looks really, really good. If the body doesn't work, copy and paste this link on your browser. It looks really good. So just copy the code. Just copy the code right here, and then we just paste the code right here. And then update some stuff. First of all, get rid of this, and then up here we're going to actually specify the props. Also get rid of this. Up here we're going to say interface forgot password email props. We're going to pass a user email. It's going to be of type string. A reset URL is going to be of type string. And then finally, a username that's going to be of type string. And then right here, we're just going to destructure those props. First of all, specify the type. It's going to be forgot password email props. And then we're going to destructure the user email, the username, and also the structure the reset URL, like that. And then we'll just update, say reset your password is going to be hello. Then we'll specify the username right here, hello username, and then we'll reset the password to reset your user email. And then we just pass the reset URL right here, and also right here we'll pass the set URL. Great, so that's basically it, and we can keep the tailing classes just like this. Now you can actually update this if you want to. We can actually use the template like this. So we're going to go to our auth.ts file right here. We're just going to call what is the name of this component? Forgot password email. Call the forgot password email component. Then we have to pass some props into that. Pass a username, which is going to be the user dot the email of the user. pass the user email, which is going to be user.the email of the user, and then we're going to pass the reset URL, which is going to be equals to the URL. It's going to be equals to this URL right here. And then after this component right here, down here, we're going to specify the tool. And as usual, you're going to put your own Gmail email right here, or Gmail test@gmail.com. You're going to place your own email right here, okay, since we are working on local development. So now we have the send resend password email. To send the send password email, you can actually make the request. So the way it's going to work is that we're going to have a form that the user is going to be taken to if the user clicks on the forgot password, and then users have to fill their registered email. Now, the way BetterAuth does this is that BetterAuth doesn't want you to guess the email that is registered in the application and the email that is not registered. So even if you fill in an email that is not registered to the application, you're still going to get a success, but you're not going to get any email. Any email is not going to be sent by BetterAuth. It's not going to trigger any email. But an email is only going to be triggered when the email is actually registered in that application. It's inside the database. So I'll just save this .ts file. Now we're going to create a new page. I'll just go to SRC Up Auth. In here, I'll create a forgot password page. Okay. So basically, this forgot password page, we're just going to copy what we have inside the sign-in page, or copy everything we have here. I'll just paste that inside this page.tss file. We're going to create page.tss. And we're obviously going to update some stuff. So I'll just change the component name to forgot password page. Forgot password page. Okay, and now we'll go to our sign in page, where we have underneath the form, just before this button right here, we're going to create a div tag, a display. I'll give it a display of flex and justify of end, and then inside this div we're going to create a link tag, which we're going to get from next link. The href is going to point to the page we just created, which is going to be /forgot password, and then we're going to output forgot password, and then we'll give this link a tailwind class, text of xm, a text of fill 400, and hover we're going to do a text fill of 300. I'll just format this, and now we'll go back to the sign-in page. Let's go to the sign-in page. We actually see that we have forgot password. Now we'll click on this forgot password. It's going to take us to the forgot password page. Great. And now I just have to update the forgot password page. So we're going to start with the schema. I'll go to the forgot password page. We don't need the password, so we'll just get rid of this. And also we're going to scroll down. Since we've gotten rid of the schema for the password, just get rid of the field. If it's submitting, this is going to be sending. Then this is going to be send reset link. Then we just get rid of this divider. Also get rid of these showshards right here. Get rid of this. And then right here, this is going to be remember your password. Then it's going to go to the sign-in page. Okay, save that. And then we have to update the title of the layout. So this is going to be forgot password. Then for the subtitle, we just going to output enter your email to receive a reset link, like that. And then we have to actually update these two. Now, instead of these, I'll just get rid of all these. Instead of sign in right here, we're going to have auth client dot request password reset. And then we're going to pass the email of the user, which is going to be data dot email. And then you have to specify, because this redirect is very important. Our BetterAuth knows the page to redirect the user to actually update their password, change their password. So redirect to, we're going to create a page called reset password. Now this reset password is going to be passed through the email link. Okay, so it's going to be it's going to be localhost 3000 / reset password link with the reset token. And then we're going to check if there's an error. If there's an error, we're just going to toast the error. Now, if it's successful, we don't want to do this. We're going to create a state. So up here, I'm going to create a state const sent, then set sent is going to be equals to use state from React. Okay, by default is going to be false. And then right here, after we actually send the reset link successfully, down here we're just going to say set sent to true. And then right here where we have this form right here, we'll just cut this form off. Then we're going to say if sent is set to true, then we render this JSS, else we're going to render this form right here. So if the set is sent to true, if we've actually sent the reset link, if the email has been sent and sent is set to true, then we'll create a div right here. Give this div a tailwind class, text of center space y of 4. Then in here, I'm going to output a paragraph tag, which I'll give a tailwind class of text green of 400 and a text of xm. And then inside this paragraph tag, we're just going to output this right here, reset link send, click your email. And then after this paragraph tag, we're going to output a link from next link. The link is going to say back to login. The href of the link is going to be simply be / sign in, just in case the user wants to actually sign into their account. And then we'll give this a tailwind class and make use of this tailwind classes right here. Okay, now when we send this sent to not true, we should actually be able to see that this is what we're going to see after we send the recent link. And we don't want to display this, so what we're going to do, we just scroll down. We'll say we're only going to display this footer right here. We'll say if sent is false, that's only when we want to render these components. So now we can just get rid of the negation and we're going to see the form right here. So now we cannot actually send the test this yet because we don't have the reset password page. Okay, so if we click on the email, it's going to take us to a 404, a page that doesn't exist. So now we're just going to get rid of this router instance. We're no longer making use of this. And I think that's basically it. Just rearrange this a bit. So now when we request a password reset, what it's going to do is that it's going to take this email and it's going to send a mail to this email, resend, and then it's going to generate a URL for us. And this reset password is going to be the URL. Okay, when we click on that, it's going to take us to this reset password page. And it's going to fire this email right here, send password reset. So now we just have to create this reset password page. So I'll go to this folder, I'll create a folder called reset password, and in here I'm going to create a page.tsx, and then I'll just copy the forgot password, or copy this what we have here, and then I'll paste that right here. And obviously we have to actually update this too. First of all, just get rid of this unused imports. Get rid of this unused import, and we'll do the same thing for the forgot password. Get rid of the unused imports. So go back to the reset password page. So the very first thing you have to update is going to be the schema. We do not need this. We don't need the email for our schema. We only need the password, and we need two passwords. We need a password and a confirmed password because users are going to be updating their password. So we're going to go to the sign up page, go to page.tsx, and just copy these two fields right here. Copy this password and this confirmed password, and then I'll just paste that right here. Okay, we need the password and the confirmed password, and also we need that refine. So also get the refine right here, .refine, because we're going to be checking if the password matches the confirmed password, and the confirmed password matches the password. And then we just scroll down. Now this is not going to be password link resent, check your email. This is going to be password resent successfully. For the title, it's going to be reset password. It's going to be enter your new password. Enter your new password. And then we just get rid of these email inputs. Then I'm going to replace this email input with the password input from the sign-in page. So I'll just copy this right here. And then I'll paste that right here. And then we need the confirm password input. We get that from the sign up page. Copy the confirm password input. Okay, that's the input for the confirm password we used in the sign up page. And then we'll just paste that down here. And then all we just have to do is actually update this right here. Okay, so just cut all the way to this point right here. It's going to be auth client dot reset password. I'm going to pass the new password. It's going to be data.password. And then this is very important. When we actually click on the link on the email, we're going to get a token. So we have to get that token from the URL. So up here, we're going to say const search params is going to be equals to use search params, which we're going to get from Next navigation. And then now you'll create a variable const token. It's going to be equals to search params dot get token. Okay, that's because we're going to call the value in the URL token, and we want to get this as a string like that. So when we actually, because we need this token, without this token that BetterAuth sent to the email that has been passed to the URL, we are not going to be able to actually update the password. It's going to show invalid token. Okay, so the token in the database has to match the token that was sent to the email to actually reset the password. The token sent with the reset password email. So after passing the new password, you have to pass the token like that. Basically use a shorthand method because the token matches this variable name right here. And then if there's an error, we're going to choose the error, then return here, and then we'll send to true like that. And now we should be able to go to the reset password page. So just go to actually check it out. Reset password. We actually see the reset password page. Enter your new password. And we have to update this. Just scroll down. This is going to be reset password. And this is going to be resetting like that. Reset password. Remember your password. Sign in. Okay. And now we can just rename. You can actually leave the state because basically we know what the state is going to do. When we send the updates the password, it's going to actually set the state to true. But for better naming convention, I'll just call it success. Then set success to true. Okay, so right here is going to be set success. When we successfully update the password, then right here is if success is true, then we're going to display this success password reset successfully. Then down here we're also going to say if it's not successful yet, then we're going to render that. Great. So now we have the reset password page. So now we can actually test this out. So go to sign in, then go to forgot password. Now when we use a mail that is not actually registered in the application, just do tests, use a random number at gmail.com. I'll send a reset password link, and we're going to get the reset link saying check your email. Now we'll go to our email. I'll just refresh this. We do not get any new email. Okay, remember I said that even if the email is not actually registered in the application, BetterAuth is going to show a success response just to ensure that people don't know users that are registered on your application and users that are not registered. So basically, BetterAuth is going to show a success message on the client, but it's not going to send any email out. But when we use a registered email, I'll use a registered email and make use of this email right here. I'll just refresh this, and then I'll place that email right here. I'll click on send password resent link. I'll click on that, and we get resent link sends check your email. We'll go back to our email. You can see we actually get a new email right here. When I click on that, it's going to say reset your password. Hello, the And we didn't actually do this where it's supposed to be the name of the user. Just go back to the template. It's going to be hello, not hello user dot email, hello username. Okay, hello username. And that's it. It's going to be hello username. And I'll go to the auth.ts file to check if everything's okay there. And also right here, we're saying the username is going to be user.email. The username is going to be user dot the name of the user. It's going to be the name of the user. So now I'm going to save this and I'm going to try to actually reset the password again. I'll go back to our application. I'll just refresh this and then I'll paste that email again, copy the email again, and then we'll paste that email right here, and then we'll click on send recent link. I'll get a recent link saying check your email. Go back to our email. I'll actually get a new email right here. Reset your password. Click on that. I'll actually see that right here. Hello, Jane Doe. We received a request to reset the password for your account associated with this mail right here. Click the button below to create a new password. And now when we hover on this, you can actually see the reset password page. When we click on this reset my password, it's going to bring us to the reset password page, and you can actually see the token generated on the database up here. Now we can actually reset the password. Now, initially the password of this user was 80, so we're going to use 1 8 times 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. I'm going to add an extra 1 to see if the validation is working. I'll get password do not match. Now when we click on this, it's actually going to reset the password of the user. So I'll click on reset password. It's going to say resetting, and then we get password reset. Okay, password reset successfully. Now I'll go back to the login page. Now I want to try to log in with this user. I'm going to use the old password, which is 08 times 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. When we click on sign in, we're going to get invalid email or password. So until we use the new password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, which is 1 8 times, I'll click on sign in. That's the only way we can actually sign into the user's account. So now we've actually implemented the forgot password functionality. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to work on the Google OAuth sign in so that users can actually sign in with their X16 Google account. So we're going to head back to the BetterAuth documentation. Now I'm going to go over to Google authentication right here, social sign on. I'll go to Google right here, and you can actually see what we have to do. To use Google as a social provider, you need to get your Google credentials. You can get them by creating a new project in the Google Cloud Console. And in the Google Cloud Console, credentials authorized with that, we make sure to set. So basically, we have to head over to Google Cloud Console. So I'm going to go to Google console.cloud.google.com. I'll go over there. Now, after this actually opens up, you have to actually create a new project. I can actually see I have 3 projects here. Okay, so I'll just click on this, my first project right here. Now, if you don't have a project, you're going to go to new project right here. If you don't have any project, so I'll just click on this, my first project right here. And then I'll go to API and services right here. I want to create new credentials. I'm going to go to credentials. As you can see, I have one credential right here. So I'm going to create another one. So I'll just go to OAuth consent screen. And I'm going to head over to clients. And right here, we can actually create a new OAuth client. So I'll just create a new client. And this is going to be a web application. So we're going to select web application. For the name, I'll just do Auth client 2. You can actually name the client's ID, whatever you want to name it. So I'm going to call my Auth client 2. And now these are the most important thing. We have to actually add an origin. Okay. Now the origin is basically where your auth request is going to be coming from. So we have to specify that. For now, since we are working on local development, we're going to use localhost 3000. When you deploy this application on a live server, you're going to actually place your own domain here because you're going to be sending Google Auth requests from your domain. So I'm going to head over to BetterAuth. We'll just copy this localhost 3000 right here. HTTP localhost 3000. Then we're just going to paste that right here. And then the authorized redirect URL is where BetterAuth is going to redirect the user. So go back to the documentation. It says that authorized redirect URLs, make sure to set the redirect URL to this right here. Okay, for local development. For production, make sure to set the redirect URL as your production domain. Okay, which means for production, it's going to be your domain /API auth callback Google. Since we are working locally right here on development, it's going to be localhost 3000 /API auth callback Google. So
So just copy this right here, this callback right here. And then we're just going to add an authorized URL. We'll paste that right here. Okay, great. And then we just have to click on create OAuth client. And now we can actually see the client ID and the client secret. Now you shouldn't use my client ID and my client secret because obviously I'm actually going to delete this after this tutorial. So I copy my client ID. I'm going to head over to Visual Studio Code and go to .env. Now we have to place this in an environment variable. So right here, I'm going to say, I'll just see what we are calling it over here. It's going to be Google Client ID. So I'll just copy this Google Client ID. I'll paste that right here. Then I'll copy the Google Client secrets. I'll paste that right here. And then we can head over to the Google Cloud Console and copy the client ID again. And then we'll just paste that client ID right here. And then we'll get the client secret, copy the client secret. And then we'll just paste the client secret right here. Okay, I'll save that. And now we can just click on OK right here. And we have our auth client 2. So next we have to actually copy this right here, the social providers. And also we have to copy the base URL. We already have the BetterAuth URL, so we just have to set the BetterAuth URL in our configuration. And this is very important for the Google and GitHub redirect. Okay, the social providers redirect. So just copy this right here, and then we head over to our auth.ts file, src lib auth.ts. After this database right here, we'll just paste that up here. So now we've actually configured the Google sign in. Okay, so now this right here is going to load these environment variables from your Google Client ID and Google Client secret. We'll load them as a string. So now let's actually implement the sign in with Google. So we're going to go to the sign in page, go to app, go to auth, go to sign in page.tss right here. And for the social sign in, I'm going to actually place them in a separate file so we can actually reuse them because we're also going to use them in the sign up page. So inside this lib folder, I'll create a file called social auth.ts. And here we're going to say export const sign in with Google is going to be equals to an async function. Then we're going to say const, we're going to structure what we're going to get. It's going to be equals to, we're going to get our auth client, import our auth client dot sign in dot social. And then in here, we have to specify the provider, which is going to be Google. And remember, we have to actually await this because this is going to be, it's going to be a network request, and then we'll destructure out the error. And then down here, we're going to check if we get an error. If error, then we're going to toast the error as usual. Go to the page.tss file. If there's an error, we'll toast the error, and then we're just going to return right here. Then we just get this toast from React Hot Toast. So now we have the function to actually sign in with Google. So we're going to go to our page.tss file and actually call that function. So when a user clicks on the sign in with Google button, just scroll over there. Right here, I'm going to say on click. We're going to call the sign in with Google function we created. Okay, which we're going to import up here. We're going to import sign in with Google from that file. Great. And now just save this. Now just rerun the application, pm run dev like that. Now we'll click on this Google button. We want to continue with Google. We should actually call the Google Auth API. So I click on Google right here. And actually see right there, actually calls the Google Auth API. So now you can actually choose a Google account you actually want to sign in with. Now if you have multiple accounts logged in, you can actually select the one you want to use. For now, I'll just click on this email right here. You can actually see it's going to actually sign into auth and then say Google will allow us to access the info about you, and then we can click on just continue right here. Then it's going to route the user back to the home page. Now you don't have to worry because we're going to write like a server action middleware right here. For when the user is authenticated, it's going to route the user to the dashboard page. Okay, but for now we're actually logged in. When we go over to our BetterAuth
token right here. I'll go to application. I'll go to cookies. Just open this up. You can actually see we have a BetterAuth cookie right here, which means we are signed in. And now we can go to /dashboard. And you actually see we are logged in with this email right here, and the name of the user with the email. Okay, great. And then if you want to log out, you can simply just click on this to actually log out the user. Great. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to work on the GitHub sign-in button. So we're going to head back to the documentation, and then we'll go to the GitHub, how to sign in using GitHub. Look to GitHub right here. And signing in with GitHub is basically the same thing. You have to get our client ID and client secret, which you can get from the GitHub developer portal. And then we just have to, just the way we did for our Google sign in, we have to actually place a callback URL. Okay, great. So now we have to actually create a new GitHub client ID and client secret. So I'm going to head over to my GitHub account. I'll just go to settings right here. And then I'll go to developer settings. You have to go to developer settings right here. And I won't get to developer settings. You have to go to OAuth apps. And you can actually see my previous OAuth apps right here. I can actually click on new OAuth app to create a new OAuth app. So I just see auth tutorial. And then for the home page, this is going to be the local hotspot 3000, which you're just going to copy. Now, when you actually deploy to production, you're actually going to update this to your domain. So this is going to be local hotspot 3000. And then we have to actually specify the authorized callback URL. So go over to BetterAuth, we just copy this right here. It's basically the same callback for Google, but we're just going to change that Google to GitHub. And then we just paste that right here. So now we have the homepage URL, the authorized callback URL, and also we have the name of the application. Then we just click on register application. So that's basically it. So now we have the client ID. Now to generate the client secret, you just have to type in your password. Don't click on generate secret right here. You have to actually type in your password, which I'm going to do. Confirm. You can actually see it's going to actually generate my secret for me. And then and now I have the client and I have the secret. So we're going to head back to BetterAuth. Now this is basically how we can configure this. So I just copy this GitHub right here. I head over to the Auth.ts src lib auth.ts. After this Google sign-in right here, we'll just paste the GitHub configuration right here. And then we have to create two environment variables. It's going to be the GitHub client ID. I'll go to my .env file. I'll paste that right here. And then we'll go back to the auth.ts and copy the GitHub client secrets environment variable name. We'll paste that right here. And now we can get the client ID and the GitHub client secret. So basically, we just go back to GitHub and copy the client ID. Now you have to actually generate your own client ID because obviously I'm going to delete this application after this tutorial. And then I'll just place the client ID right here. And then we'll get the client secret, which I'm going to copy. And then we'll paste the client secret right here. Okay, so now we have the GitHub client ID and the GitHub client secrets. I'll just save this file. So now we can actually make use of GitHub provider to actually send in users in our application. So now we're going to go back to the sign in page. I'll go to Up Auth. I'll go to sign in page.tss file. And this is where we're actually going to make use of is where we're going to actually sign in with GitHub. But remember, just the way we actually implemented the Google sign, you have to do this in a separate file. So we'll go to the social.auth.ts and actually create the function. So basically it's going to be similar with this. So I just drag this down, and this is going to be signed in with GitHub, and then auth.client sign in with social. The provider is going to be GitHub, like that. Basically that's it. So now I just have to import this in the page.tss file. So go to the sign in page, just scroll all the way down. Then right here, when we have this GitHub button, we're going to say on click. We're going to call the sign in with GitHub. And then we're going to import that up here. Importing sign in with GitHub and sign in with Google. Great. And remember, we're also going to have auth sign in for our, okay, this is supposed to be the sign up. So I just have to update this page.tss file down here is going to be, you don't have an account, sign up. Then this is going to be /sign up. Okay, so remember, we're also going to have the auth button for the sign up page. So in case the user doesn't want to create a new account, they want to continue with their already existing Google account with GitHub and with Google and with GitHub. So what we're going to do, we'll just go to the sign up page, go to sign up page.tss, where we have this Google button. Since we already have the function inside the social auth, we're just going to say on click. We don't have to rewrite the function, just call the sign in with Google function. And then for the GitHub button, we're going to say on click, we're going to say sign in with GitHub. Okay, great. So now we can actually test the signing in with GitHub. So now we want to use the sign up page. So if a user just visits the application and they don't want to create a new account, they can actually continue with their GitHub account. Click on continue with GitHub and you can actually ask for authorization. Okay, now if you want to actually authorize, because right now it's going to say authorize will redirect to this. Now when you deploy on production, this is going to be your website name, okay, your domain. So when you authorize this right now, it's actually going to sign in the user. So I click on authorize. It's actually going to sign in the user using their already existing GitHub account. Okay, in this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to actually work on actually protecting WAT. So what we want to do is that an unauthenticated user, a user that's actually logged in, should not be able to actually see the dashboard page, because remember, inside this SRC, we have this group FAT right here called protect. And this is where you're going to place all the pages you want to actually protect with authentication. You don't want users that are not logged in to actually visit. And also, we have this auth file where we're going to place pages that we do not want users that are already authenticated to actually see. So when a user is logged in already, the user doesn't have any business with this sign up page and also all this forgot and reset password page. So we're going to actually create the middlewares for this. Since we're using Next.js, we're going to make use of server actions. So I want to create the first server action now. This server action I want to create, this is the server action you're going to actually use if you want to actually fetch the details of a LinkedIn users, or maybe you want to make a post request like create comment or post in your application to check if users are actually authenticated. So I'll go to SRC, I'll create a folder called server actions. In here, I'll create an action called get current user.ts. And then I was going to say export async function get current user. We create a variable called session, which is going to be equals to, we're going to await auth. Now we're going to get auth from our auth.ts file. Now remember, when we're actually making use of the auth in our client, we are making use of auth client. Now I want to make use of the auth instance in our server environment. That's why we're making use of this auth.api.get session like that. And then in here we're going to say the headers is going to await headers from next headers. So this is how we actually get the session of the user on the server. So we're going to check if no session.user.id, which means if there's no session, which means this is going to be undefined, then we just return this server action is going to return null. And then down here you're going to say const. Now with this server action, now if you want to display the profile picture of the logged in user on your navbar or something like that, you can actually use the server action, because right now we're actually going to pull the details of the user using Prisma. So we're going to say create a variable called user, which is going to be equal to, we're going to await, we're going to call our Prisma model. Remember, I said that inside this our lab folder right here, this lab folder, anytime I want to actually query the database or fetch data from our database, we're going to use our Prisma ORM instance, which is going to be this Prisma instance we created. So in previous chapter, we basically have been using BetterAuth to communicate with the server, but this time around, we're going to make use of this Prisma instance because we want to actually fetch the details of the user. Prisma dot, we're going to make use of the user model. Now we have access to this user model because we ran Prisma generate, which is going to generate these client models for us, which we can actually use to actually access the models and communicate with the models. Dot, we want to find a unique user where the ID of the user matches the session
user.id, and then we want to select the ID of the user, set that to true. And now this is where you're going to select the things you want. If you want the username from this, you can actually set that to get the user's name. If you want to actually display when you call your get current user, if you want to display the user's profile picture, you can get the image of the user, the image part of the user, and set that to true. You can actually do that too. And then down here, we just return the user. Okay, so anytime you want to check if a user is authenticated on the server, you just call your get current user. Now, if the user is not authenticated, your get current user is going to return null, which means the session is null. But if the user is authenticated, it's going to return this object right here with the details of the user, the ID, the username, and the image of the logged in user. Great. So now we're going to create our first middleware or server action. So we're going to create the first one, which is going to be require auth.ts export async require. So now the essence of this is that we don't have to rewrite all this logic anymore to check if a user is authenticated. We simply just call this get current user. So right here, we're going to say const current user is going to be, because we're going to await the get current user server action. Okay, this get current user server action right here. And then after that, we're going to check if no current user.id. Okay, because remember, when the user is not authenticated, this is going to actually return null. So which means this is going to be null. Then in here, if it's null, we're going to redirect the user, get redirect from next navigation to / the sign in. So basically, even before the page loads, before all the client's propagation starts, we're actually going to check on the server if the user is authenticated. If the user is not authenticated, we just redirect the user to the sign-in page. And also down here, you can actually do this too. I'll just copy this right here and I'll paste that right here. Okay, now this is going to, I'm going to get Prisma from Prisma, and this is going to be the current user.id. And the reason I'm doing this is because what I usually do is that I'm going to keep this right here very light, because this is going to be what you are going to be using to check if a user is authenticated on the server globally in your application, whether you are inside the API route or inside a server component. So basically what I usually do, I just only get the ID so that the query is going to be very light and fast. Okay, then for when we require the auth of the user, we can actually get the details of the logged in user if you want to actually display the profile details of the user, stuff like that. That way it's going to actually keep this get current user very light. So I just format this, and then down here we just return the user like that. Great. And the reason you could actually want to actually get the image of the user or the username of the user, because you could have a server route that you need the username of the user or the image of the user, so you can actually get that here too. Anytime you want to make a post request, you always have to check if users are actually authenticated. So these are you're going to check. And also, if you are checking, you might also want the details of the user, maybe the username of the user, the ID of the user, or the image of the user. So you can actually fetch that here to set image to true if you actually want to do that. So now we have this require auth right here. So now we're going to create the last server action, which is going to be, now for this one, you can call this one redirect if not authenticated or require guest. Okay, because this page requires the user not to be authenticated. So we're going to create that. I'll call this require guest.ts. We do export async function require guest. Gonna get the current user server action. Get current user going to be, because we're gonna await get current user, and then we're gonna say if no current user.id, then we return null. Okay, basically don't want to do anything. But if there's a current user, then we redirect the user, get redirect from next navigation to /
dashboard, which means if the user is already authenticated, you're going to redirect the user to the dashboard. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to ensure that authenticated users can now actually visit the auth pages. So now let's actually use these server actions. We're going to make use of these server actions inside this auth folder and also inside this protected folder. Now, remember when we actually created this application, I said that this layout is going to act as the root layout of this application. So whatever we place here, like for example, this Fullstack component was accessible globally in this application, but we can also create layouts for group routes. Okay, we can create layouts for this auth routes right here, and we can create layouts for this protected route. Now the layouts are going to be specific to only pages inside this group route. So for this protected route, I'm going to create a layout, .tsx rfc. I call this protected routes layout. And now we're going to get the props. So go to this layout.ts file. We're going to get this, copy these props right here and the type. Just copy this right here, and then we just paste that right here. And then in here, all we can just simply do is just say we're going to await require auth server action. Okay, which means any page we render, we have to specify this is going to be async. Okay, async, which means any page we render inside this layout is actually going to be protected. And then right here, we'll just return an empty fragment that's going to have the children right here, just as same as the root layout, where every page we create is going to be rendered where we have these children right here, because this is the root layout file. Now, same thing for the protected route. Any page we create inside this protected route are going to be rendered right here, which means they're going to have this await require auth server action protecting these pages. Do the same thing for the auth page. So in here, we'll create a layout file, layouts.tsx rfc. I'll call this auth layouts. And then in here, we're also going to get the props and the types, and then we just paste that right here. And also this is going to be async too, export default async function. And then right here, we're going to await, just the way we did with this protected that when we awaited the require auth, we're going to await require guest, and just import that require guest server action in here. And then we get rid of this, make use of empty fragments. In here, we're just going to output the children like that, which means the sign-in page, the forgot password page, sign up page are going to be rendered where we have these children right here, because this is the auth layout file. Great. Now, I know you're going to wonder why we are not actually making use of a middleware file for actually protecting the route. Why are we making use of the layout file? And the creators of Next.js, which is Versailles, have actually said countless times that using middleware for authentication is actually not safe. Using middleware to actually protect your auth pages, okay? So they actually advise for you to actually place your auth logic to each page, okay? Go to the forgot password page, place your auth logic, go to the dashboard page, and actually place your logic. But using this layout file is going to make it easy, because we're just going to place it in just one file. And that's actually why we are doing this. This is a safer authentication method. And now we are not actually done. You can see right here that when we're at the home page, we do not actually see anything, because right now we do not have any content in the home page. We only have content in the dashboard page. We only have content inside this group route right here, this auth and this protected. Now, what this basically is going to be is basically going to be your home page, okay? The page that users, like your landing page where users can actually just visit, okay? So when they are logged in, they're going to go to the dashboard page, and when they are not logged in, when you try to go to the dashboard page, it's going to redirect them to the sign-in page, the auth pages. So right now, what we're going to do, we're going to add like a server action that's going to redirect the user based on if the user is authenticated or not. But this is going to be the landing page of the application you're actually building. The page both unauthenticated users and authenticated users can actually visit, okay? So what we're going to do, just go to the page.tss file as app page.tss file. We're going to do up here, we're going to say const current user is going to be equal to await get current user, okay? So now based on if the user is authenticated, convert this to an async function.
because I'm making use of await. Based on if the user is authenticated, that's how we're going to route the user. So right here, we're going to say if current user.id, then we're going to route the user. We're going to say redirect, because we're in a server environment, so we'll make use of redirect. So redirect the user to dashboard. If the user is not authenticated, we're going to redirect the user to /sign in, like that. Okay, great. So now we'll go back to that home page. It's going to actually redirect us based on if the user is authenticated. And we get an error from the dashboard page. We have unknown field username. That's because inside this require auth, I was actually testing something where I was saying that you can actually get the username if you want to, but we do not have a username field. Okay, because in our schema, I won't go to Prisma, schema.prisma, we do not have a username field. We don't have that. Okay, but you can actually add a username field if you want to, but for now, inside our schema, we do not have that. So we can actually see the dashboard right here. So now anytime we try to go to the home page, it's going to redirect us based on if we are authenticated. Since we are authenticated, it's going to bring us right here. So when I log out this user, it's going to take us to the sign-in page. So now when we try to access the home page, it's going to redirect us back to the sign-in page because we have a middleware in this page.tss file that's going to check if the user is authenticated. It's going to route user to the dashboard. It's going to route user to the sign-in page, like a middleware. Okay. And now, when we are not authenticated, we'll try to go to the dashboard page. Go to dashboard. It's going to redirect us back to the sign-in page because we have a middleware right there. Server action is going to check on the server if the user is authenticated. Go to dashboard. It's going to redirect us back. And now, when we actually sign in, I click on Google right here. Continue with Google. It's going to redirect us to the dashboard page. And now we'll try to visit any page in the auth page, the auth group route. Go to sign in. Redirect us back to the dashboard. And also when we try to access the sign up page, it's going to redirect us back to the dashboard. Great. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to work on the two-factor authentication feature. Now, we're going to do this in two steps. First of all, we have to create the logic for users to actually turn on two-factor authentication, and then we're going to implement the two-factor authentication. When a user logs in, it's going to take the user to the two-factor authentication page, and the user is going to actually receive an email with the OTP code. They can actually fill in the two-factor authentication page to actually complete their signing process. So first of all, we have to work on the functionality to turn on two-factor authentication. So we're going to head over to BetterAuth. We'll go to plugins. Just scroll all the way down. Go to plugins right here. We're going to go to two-factor right here. And you can actually reach through how we can actually enable two-factor authentication on application. I'm going to go to enable it to FA right here. It says to enable two-factor authentication, call two-factor enable with the user's password, which means anytime I want to actually enable two-factor authentication, we need the user's password. We have to pass the user password. And then this is basically the logic we need to actually enable two-factor authentication. So first of all, we have to actually add the plugin. So up here, we go to installation of the plugin. What we have to actually do to add the two-factor plugin to our application, it says add the two-factor plugin to your auth configuration and specify your app name as the issuer. So basically, in our auth configuration, you have to create a plugin area and call two-factor in there, and then you have to specify the app name. So I just go over to my auth.ts file, I go to src lib, I go to auth.ts right here. Up here for the app name, I just call this Egbo Tech, and then plugins, I'm going to add a comma here. I'm going to call two-factor. I'm not getting the auto completion, so I'm going to import this manually. So up here, I'm going to import two-factor from BetterAuth /plugins, like that. We have to actually destructure this add from the module. So now we've gotten the two-factor. Now we have to actually configure this in here. And this is very important. We're going to skip verification. Skip verification on enabled. Now what this means is that if a user wants to actually enable two-factor, they don't have to verify any OTP. Okay, we just want to skip that step. So users can actually use their password to actually enable two-factor authentication. Only the password, so they set that to true. And there are actually two options for setting two-factor. We have the TOTP options, and then we have the OTP options, where a 6-digit code is going to be sent to the user's email. So I want to choose the OTP options. And in here, I'm going to async, create a function called async send OTP. We're going to get that from BetterAuth. Async send OTP. Now, this is going to be the function that's going to send the OTP code to the user's email when the user actually signs in and two-factor authentication is actually turned on. In here, we're going to have access to the user and also we're going to have access to the OTP code. Then inside this function, we're going to do resend .emails.send. The form is going to be, the form address is basically going to be the same form address we've been using. And then after that, we're going to set the subject, which is going to be 2FA OTP code. And then we have to specify the template we want to use, which we do not have. So we have to actually create a template for 2FA. So we're going to head back to new.email. Right here, we're going to say create an email template that would be sent to users after sign in with a 6-digit OTP code to complete their sign in process. Create an email template that will be sent to users after sign in with a 6-digit OTP code to complete their sign-in process. A 2FA email. So it actually knows that it's a two-factor authentication email. So I'll just click on create. So it will actually start creating the template. And this has been created. It says, we've sent you a verification code to secure your account. Either someone just tried to sign into your account from a new device or a location. To complete your sign-in, please use the verification code below. So this is going to be the OTP email. So we'll just go over to the code and actually copy the code. And then we'll go back to our application. We'll go to components, emails. I'll create a new component called 2FA OTP email.tsx. And then we'll just paste that code right here. Get rid of this dummy data. And then up here, we're going to specify the prop types. First of all, get rid of this props right here. And then up here, create the type interface, send OTP email props. We'll pass the OTP code, which is going to be a string, and also the username, which is also going to be string. And then right here, we can specify the type of the props as send OTP email props, and then we'll destructure the OTP code and also destructure the username like that. And then right here, we can actually use the OTP code. Yeah, the OTP code, the verification code, complete your sign-in, hi there. We're not actually making use of the username. Instead of hi there, we're going to say hi, the username. Just scroll down, and this email was sent to user email. We also need the user email right here, so I'll just get that. So I'll say this is going to take a user email that's going to be of type string. And then right here, we just destructure out the user email. And then down here, actually using this email was sent to user email. Okay, great. So in the email template, we're going to see this right here. This email was sent to Egbo Emmanuel. Okay, great. So if this is not your email, just ignore this. If you didn't request the sign-in, please ignore this email or contact our support team immediately. Then security tip, never share this code with anyone. Our team will never ask for a verification code. And then again, this email was sent to the email address, which is this email address right here. So now we can make use of this component. So let's get the component name two-factor auth email. So right here, I just call the two-factor auth email component, and then we have to pass in the props. I'm going to pass the username, which is going to be the user email first, which is going to be user.email. Then we're going to pass the user name, which is going to be user dot the name of the user, and then lastly we're going to pass the OTP code, which is going to be this OTP we are destructuring up here, this OTP code right here. And then after this, we're going to pass the tool right here, which is going to be, if you're on production, it's going to be user.email if you're on production. But since we're on development, vSend is not going to actually send these mails to users' email. You have to specify an email address you want to actually receive the mail. So you can actually add your email, test@gmail.com, add your own email address, okay, right here. And then after this right here, we have to actually configure some stuff down here. After this send OTP function right here, we'll specify the period. It's going to be 6. That's the period of how long the OTP code is going to be valid. Okay, so it's going to be 6 minutes. So right here, I'm just going to change this, that this code is going to be valid for, where is that text? Yeah, this code is going to be expire after 6 minutes. Or you can keep it at 10. I just change this to 10 right here. Then the digit, how many digits code do we want? We want 6 digits code, 6 digits OTP code, and how many allowed attempts we're going to do. So now that we've already configured what we need in the auth.ts file to actually implement two-factor authentication, we're going to go back to the BetterAuth documentation. Now, after we actually add the plugin right here, we have to actually migrate the database. If we run the migration or generate a schema to add the necessary feeds, because to actually implement two-factor, we have to actually add additional table or additional model to our schema, and then we have to actually add the two-factor clients to our auth clients. But for now, we have to actually add this. Now we can actually use this PNPM DLS auth migrate to actually generate this, but we can actually do this manually too. So for better understanding, I'm going to use the manual method so I can actually explain better. So I just click on the schema we need to create. So when I click on the schema, it's going to bring us right here. First of all, we need to add this field to our user model. So when I go to the Prisma version, this is basically what we have to actually add to our user model. So I just copy this right here, copy this two-factor enabled boolean, copy that, and then I'll just paste that right here, which means the user is going to have a feed in their user's model called two-factor enabled, which is going to be true or false. Now, if the two-factor is enabled, it's going to be true, and if it's not enabled, it's going to be false. So now we have to create the two-factor table. So we're going to go down here, create a new model. Down here, we're going to say model two-factor. I'm going to head back to the BetterAuth documentation, and this is going to be the schema for the two-factor. So basically, we're just going to copy this schema right here, because BetterAuth actually gives us the data type of what we have to create for the to actually implement two-factor authentication. Now, if you actually run the BetterAuth generate for two-factor, it's actually going to generate it since we actually added the plugin. But I actually want to do this manually, okay, so we understand better what we're actually doing. So I'll just go over there and then I'll paste that right here. This is what we need. This is the table we need to actually implement two-factor. So now we have to actually specify the reverse relationship, because this two-factor, just like the other models, are going to be related, just like this account model relating to the user model are going to be related to the user model. So in the user model, we have to specify a reverse relationship. So right here, we're going to say two-factor of the user. Sorry, two-factor is going to be an array of the two-factor model, like that. Okay, just like the session and the account. So instead of two factors, I'll make it plural, two factors, then it's going to be an array. So I'll just save this. Now we have to actually push these changes to our database. So I'll just open this up, stop the server. I'm going to do pnpm dlx prisma db push, like that. And then we're going to get your database is now in sync with your Prisma schema. And now I won't head over to our Prisma database. I'm just going to refresh this. We actually get the two-factor table right here. When we click on the two-factor table, we actually see the values in the two-factor table. The ID backup code, secret user ID, and verified. And also when we go to the users table, we actually see, I'll just scroll, we should actually see the two-factor enabled field right here. And now we can actually update the Prisma client by doing pnpm dlx prisma and regenerates the Prisma client. We just regenerate that. That's going to regenerate our Prisma client. I'll just rerun the server pnpm run dev, and then I'll close up this terminal right here. Now I head back to BetterAuth. I'll just go back to the installation. After installing and after adding the plugins, after actually generating and updating our database, then the third step, you have to add the client plugin. Add the client plugin and specify where the user should be redirected if they need to verify their second two-factor. So I'm going to go to Auth client right here. Then in here, I'm going to specify that. So in here, we're going to say plugins, an array of plugins. I want to call the two-factor client plugin. We're going to get the two-factor client from BetterAuth/plugins. And it says that in here, we can specify where we want users to be redirected to when they need to actually complete two-factor. Okay, so we're going to say two-factor page is going to be /2. We'll create a page called two-factor like that. So I'm going to save that. Great. So now with that, we've actually completed the setup process for two-factor. So now we have to actually enable two-factor authentication. Now to enable two-factor authentication, we need the password of the user. Okay, we're just going to call authClient.twofactor.enable, then we'll pass the user's password to actually enable two-factor. Great. So let's actually do that. So we're going to create a component to actually toggle the two-factor. So inside my components folder, I'll create a component called toggle two-factor.tsx rfc. I'll just get rid of this import right here. And up here, we're going to specify a prop type interface toggle two-factor props. It's going to take a value called two-factor enabled, which is going to be Boolean, either Boolean or undefined. And then right here, we actually going to specify that type is going to be toggle two-factor props, and then you just the structure of the two-factor enabled. Now, since we are going to be using the password to actually enable the two-factor authentication, which means we're going to have a password input, which means we need Zod schemas too. So we're going to go over to our sign-in page or any page where I'm actually making use of password. We just copy the schema right here. Copy when I'm making use of password. You go to the reset password. Copy this schema right here, and then I'll just paste that up here. And then we do not need this refine. We just need only the password, and also we do not need the confirm password. And then we're just going to import z from Zod like that. And also we're going to copy the type. We're just going to get the from data type. We'll paste that down here. And now we're going to actually need React hook form. So we're just going to copy this right here, copy this, and then we'll just paste that down here. And also I'll just import the use form from React hook form, and also import Zod resolver from our hook form resolvers Zod. And also we're going to actually create a state. So up here I'm going to say const open set open to know when the form is open or not. It's going to be equal to use state, which is going to get from React by default is going to be false. After that, we're going to return a JSX. So in here, I'll create a div tag, which I'm going to give a tailwind class, a maximum width of MD, MX of auto, space Y of 4. And then in here, we're going to create a button that user can actually use to actually toggle the form open or close. I'll give this button a tailwind class. And the classes are long, so I'll just paste the classes right here. And the title of the button is going to be based on this two-factor enabled, if it's true or false. Okay, based on this two-factor enabled prop, we're going to pass to this component. So in here, we're going to say if two-factor enabled, then we're going to render this, else we're going to render this right here. If two-factor is enabled, then we're going to output disable two-factor. Else we're going to output enable two-factor like that. And then when we click on this button, I'll say on click. It's going to fire an arrow function and simply going to set our open state. We get the previous state, and then it's going to set it to the opposite value. So basically, we want to toggle the open state from true to false and false to true. If it's true, we're going to set it to false. If it's false, we set it to true. And then after this button, we're going to create a JSS, which is going to be depending on if this is open. If it's open is set to true, that's only when we'll render that JSS we're about to create. And that JSS is simply going to be a form. So just go to our page.tss right here. Just copy this form right here. Copy this form, and then we'll just paste that form right here. And obviously, you have to get rid of the confirm password field because we only need the password field. And then we've not actually created the onSubmit function. You don't have to worry about that for now. And then right here, we're going to say, just get rid of this. If it's submitting, then we're also going to check is two-factor enabled. If two-factor is enabled, we're going to display disabling ... as we're going to output enabling ... as if two-factor is not enabled, as two-factor enabled, then we're going to render disable as enable. So basically what we are doing here is very simple. We're going to have the button now. The button is going to render enable or disable. If two-factor is already enabled, if the user's two-factor is enabled, it's going to render disabled. I'll just say confirm disable and also confirm enable. So basically what we are doing here is that if two-factor enabled, if the user already has two-factor authentication turned on, then we're going to display confirm disable, else we're going to display confirm enable. But if two-factor is enabled and is submitting is true, then we're going to say disabling, else we're going to say enabling. That's what we are doing here. And now we can actually create this onSubmit function. So we're just going to copy from the page.tss file, just copy this onSubmit right here, and then we just paste that, and then I just paste that up here. So basically I'm going to get rid of everything we have here because we're going to write new logic in here, okay? But we already have the onSubmit function right here. So now we're going to be making use of this toggle two-factor component inside the dashboard page. So we have to actually call it inside the dashboard page. So we're going to go to src app protected dashboard page.tss right here. Inside this dashboard, just underneath here, after this div right here, after this div for this right here, after this div, inside this user card right here, just underneath this user card, after this div for the details of the user, inside the user card, we're going to output the toggle two-factor component. And remember, we have to pass a prop called two-factor enabled, and this is going to be equals to the session of the user, session.user dot two-factor enabled. Or if it's not actually, if we don't have that, it's going to be undefined. Remember, we said that this is going to either be, just format this, we said that the props is either going to be the two-factor or it's going to be undefined. Okay, now this can be undefined if the user is not authenticated. Okay, and the reason for that is because if there's no session, then the user and the two-factor enable is going to be undefined. So we're going to specify right here that it's going to be Boolean or undefined. So now when we go back to our application, I'll just sign in. I'll just get a user email. I'll get this verified user right here. And then we just paste that right here. Then the password 1 8 times 1111111. Then I'll just click on sign in. We get the login successful and the user is logged in. Now you can actually see that component right here. When we click on enable two-factor, we're going to see the form to actually confirm the two-factor. I'm going to add a space between these two. So inside the two-factor right here, I'll just give this a margin top of 8 to actually add space. Yeah, add a space between them. You can actually click on it again. You can actually toggle the state. Great. So now when we actually submit the form, it's basically not going to do anything because we've not actually implemented the logic yet. So let's actually do that. So we're going to go back to the toggle two-factor component. Inside this onSubmit function, make use of a try catch block. Then inside the try, actually write the logic. Then if there's an error, Then we're going to toast the error. Something went wrong. We just get toast from React hot toast. Then inside the try, we're going to check if two-factor is enabled. Okay, so if two-factor is enabled, we're going to disable two-factor here. As if it's not enabled, then we're going to actually enable two-factor here. Then if two-factor is enabled, const with the structure, what we're going to get is going to be, because we're going to with auth, our auth client dot two-factor dot disable. Then the password is going to be the password the user actually feed on the form, the data dot password. And then with the structure out the error. If there's an error, now you're going to say if we get an error, then we're going to toast the error dot message. We're going to toast it as a string. And then down here we just return. But if there's no error, down here we're going to toast dot success two-factor authentication disabled, which means if two-factor is turned on for the user, we're going to disable it, and then we're going to toast two-factor authentication disabled. Okay, basically just copy the code, we'll paste that right here, and then we're going to say two-factor dot enable, then we'll pass the password. Then if there's an error, toast the error, then this is going to be two-factor authentication enabled, like that. And then after this if and else statement, after the if and the else statement, regardless of if we turn it on or off, down here we're going to set open to false, and then we're actually going to refresh the router. So up here we're going to say const router is going to be equals to, we're going to get use router from next navigation, and then right here we're simply just going to do router dot refresh the router, like that. Save that, and now we actually have the logic to actually enable and disable two-factor authentication. So let's actually test this out. So I click on enable two-factor, and right here you have to just fill in the user's password. And if you use the wrong password, I use 08 times 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. I click on confirm enable, we get invalid password. Now do you actually tell if the two-factor is enabled? You have to actually create an extra UI to actually show to the user. So I'll go back to the dashboard page. Now here I'm going to create a div. I give this div a tailwind class. I give it its tailwind classes right here. And then in here I'll create another div. Give this a display of flex items center justify of between. And then inside this div I want to create a div. Inside this div, I'll create a h3 tag, which is going to output this two-factor authentication and give this a tailwind class of text of LG and a font of medium. Then after this h2 tag, I'll create a paragraph tag. I was going to say add an extra layer of security to your account and give this a tailwind class. Text of XM test gray 400. I'll save that. We should actually see, see that right here. So now I want to place this two-factor authentication button in here. Okay, so just know that this component is for two-factor authentication. Then I'll just cut this off, and I'll place that down here. After this div right here, we'll just place that in here. Inside this div, this parent div right here, or outside of this div, we give a display of flex items of center. Okay, place that right here, and then it actually gets that right here. Great. Now we'll click on this to enable two-factor authentication. Now after this div, inside this flex container div, after this div that holds this h3 and this p1, now you're going to create a span. We'll give this span a tailwind class. Now this is going to be dynamic, so we're going to make use of backticks, and these are going to be the static styles. So basically what I want to do with this span, I want to render it based on if two-factor is enabled or not. So right here I'm going to say if session dot user dot two-factor enabled, then we're going to render these styles, else we're going to render these styles. If two-factor is enabled, I want to render this price for this span, bg green of 500, test green of 400. Else, we are going to render these styles right here. And then we can simply do in here, we say if session dot user dot two-factor enabled. If two-factor is enabled, then we want to display enabled. Else we want to display disabled, like that. Just format this. Great. So now we'll go back to the dashboard UI. We actually see that right here, disabled. So anytime we enable two-factor, we're going to see enabled right here. So I'll click on enable two-factor. I'll use the wrong password, just type something random, and then click on confirm enable, and you're going to get invalid password right here. I don't think we actually did the, let's go up there to the two-factor, go to two-factor, toast.error. We didn't actually do toast.error. Yeah, toast.error. Okay, same thing for the if is going to be toast.error, like that. So we'll just do that again. Confirm enabled. We get it toast.error, invalid password. So now when we use the correct password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, which is 1 in 8 times, click on confirm enabled, and we get. So now with our current configuration, anytime we try to actually enable two-factor, we're actually getting an error. Okay, and we're getting sent back to the login page when we refresh. Okay, that's because I actually made a very slight error. Now remember that in the auth.ts file, when I go to the auth.ts file, we are seeing right here, we're going to skip verification on enable, which means when a user enable two-factor authentication, we don't want to send any verification code to check if the two-factor authentication has been verified or not. But in our schema.prisma, we have a verified field that is going to be that true or false, which is going to be required. It's not actually optional. So there are two ways we can actually solve this. We can make this field optional, or can get rid of this field because we are not making use of the verified. So I'm just going to get rid of this verified. Okay, and then we just have to rerun the Prisma db push to actually update our database. Okay, so I'll do pnpm dlx prisma db push, like that, and then we just regenerate the Prisma client. Pnpm dlx prisma generates, and I'm going to run the application here. Pnpm run dev. Then I'll just close up this terminal. So I'm going to sign in with the user again. Then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and now we have to actually change this because when we refresh, you're going to see that this actually sets to true. So I just set this back to null. Okay, I just update this back to null. Save the row. Yes, right to DB. Set this back to null because when we actually updated, it actually updated the two-factor enable to true. But based on the fact that we didn't have a verified, when we go to the two-factor, we didn't have any verified value being added to the verified, so it actually showed an error. So now that we don't have that verified field, we can actually test this again. So go back to the application. We'll just sign in with this user, get a login successful, and then it's going to route us to the dashboard, and then I'll click on enable two-factor. I'm going to pass in the user's password. I'll click on enable two-factor, and then we get two-factor authentication enabled, and then we get right here enabled. Now when we log out with this user and try to log in, it's going to actually require two-factor authentication. So let's actually implement that feature. So for that, we have to actually update the sign-in logic. So I'm going to go to the sign-in page, src app auth sign in page.css right here. So when a user signs in, we want to check if the user has two-factor authentication turned on. Then we're going to require two-factor authentication. But if the user doesn't have two-factor authentication turned on, we just redirect the user to the dashboard, like that. So basically, we just get rid of everything we have here. I'm going to make use of a try catch block. Now inside the catch, we're simply just going to toast.error, something went wrong, and then inside the try, we're going to write the same login logic. So it comes with the structure. What we're going to get is going to be, because we're going to await auth client dot sign in dot. We're going to make use of the email method. We'll pass the email of the user, which is going to be the data dot the email, and then the password is going to be the data dot the password from React hook form. And then we just destructure out the error. And also we're going to check down here if there's an error. we're just going to toast that error. If there's an error, we just toast that error as a string. Now this is basically similar to what we did initially, but we have to specify some configuration for when two-factor authentication is actually enabled. So we're going to head over to BetterAuth, then we'll go to enabling two-factor authentication. We've actually enabled it. Sign in with two-factor authentication. Now, when the user signs in, we're going to run a function called async on success, okay? A callback function. So we're just going to copy this callback right here, and then we'll go back to our application. After this object where you actually pass the email and the password, after that object, paste this. After that object, you pass a comma and then you paste this other object in here. And then get rid of this right here. Okay. So now basically we're going to call an async callback function on source, which is going to have an argument called context. And then we're going to check if context dot data dot two-factor redirect. Now, if two-factor is turned in, then this two-factor redirect is going to be true, which means you have to redirect the user to a two-factor page. Then we're going to do await auth client dot two-factor dot send OTP. Okay, you want to send OTP code to the user. Now, this send OTP code is going to fire this send OTP email we have right here. It's going to send the OTP code to the user to actually complete their sign in. Then after that, we just have the user router dot push the user to the /two-factor page. And we've not actually created this page. We're actually going to create this page. As if there's no two-factor redirects, we're just going to toast.success logged in successfully, and then we just route the user router dot replace routes the user to / dashboard. So basically, if the user has turned on the two-factor authentication, then we're going to actually send the OTP to the user's email, and then we'll push the user to the two-factor page. But if the two-factor authentication is turned off, then we just toast success, logged in successful, and then route the user to / dashboard. Now, what this is going to do is that if two-factor is turned on, which means the user needs 2 steps to complete their sign-in process. The first step where they fill in their email, their password, and then the second step where you have to fill in this 6-digit OTP code. But if it's turned off, the user just needs 1 step. They need to fill in their email and their password, and then they can access their dashboard. I'll format this, and then I'll just save this. So now we're going to create the two-factor page. So we're going to go to src app. Also, we're going to create a page called two-factor, like that. Then inside this two-factor folder, I'll create a page.tsx. Then let's go to this reset password and actually copy everything we have here, and then I'll just paste that in here. And then I'll just rename this to two-factor page. Two-factor page. I'll save that. And now I just head over to the two-factor page. Now remember, you have to actually log out from the dashboard to be able to access the two-factor page, because the two-factor page is inside the auth folder. So just go to two-factor. All right, now we are in the two-factor page. So we just have to update the UI. First of all, we're going to update the schema. And this is not going to be, we don't need the confirm password. And also we don't need the password. And also we do not need this refine. We just need a value called code, or you can call it OTP code. It's going to have a minimum of 6, and then it's going to have a maximum of 6 too. And the message is going to be, this one is going to be code must be at least 6 characters long, while this one is going to be code must be at most 6 characters long, which means the code should not be less than 6 characters, should not be greater than 6 characters. And then we just scroll down and get rid of the feeds we do not need. We don't even need this extra JSX, so I'll just get rid of this. And also we do not need the confirm password input, and we do not need this right here. And definitely we do not need this also. We just need the form. And then right here, this is going to be verify code, and this is going to be very fine. And right here, we're going to register. This is going to be the code. And then there's going to be errors dot the code. There's going to be errors dot the code dot the message. As a code dot the message. And what else do we have to update? It's going to be errors dot code. And now we have to actually update these two. So I just get rid of this up to those points. Now, when we receive the code, we want to fire this function. And this function is simply going to be, the function is simply going to do auth client dot two factor dot verify OTP. The code is going to be data.code form react hook form. And then we're going to check if there's an error. If there's an error, we'll toast the error and then we return. And we don't need this success state for this particular component. So just get rid of this state. And also we do not need this token and this search params right here. Then we can just get this unused imports right here. And then if we successfully in actually signing in the user using two factor, then we're going to do toast.success login successful, and then do router dot replace. I don't think we have a router instance. Let's create one up here. Up here, we're just going to do const router. We're going to get router. Get use router from next navigation. And then down here, we're just going to do router dot replace. Send the user to /dash board like that. So we are basically done. So I'll save this and we actually see the UI verify code. And we have to update the title and so the label. The title is going to be two-factor verification, and then the subtitle is going to be enter the 6-digit OTP code. And then for the label, it's going to be verification code like that. I'll save that, and yeah, two-factor verification. Enter the 6-digit OTP code, then the verification code right here. And now when we try to submit an empty form, we get an error. Code must be at least 6 characters long. And when the code is less than 6 characters, we're going to get an error. Code must be at least 6 characters. But when it's over 6 characters, we're going to get an error. Code must be at most 6 characters. So the verification code must be 6 characters. Great. So now let's actually test this out. So I'm going to go to the sign in page. I go to sign in right here. And then I'm going to use the user's email, which I'm going to get from the database. I'll just copy this email right here. Head back to the sign in page. I'll just paste the email right here. I'll place in the user's password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, remember, when a user signs in our sign in page, we'll go to the sign in page. If two-factor enable is set to true, it's going to add the user to the two-factor page. And even if we didn't actually specify that here, as long as we are turning two-factor authentication to true, we also have this right here that's going to say this two-factor page. That's going to take the user to the two-factor page. So let's actually log in the user. I'll click on sign in right here. And it's going to ask the user to the two-factor verification code. Now, since two-factor verification is turned on, signing with email and password is the first step for your authentication process. So the second step, you have to actually fill in the OTP code, your OTP code or verification code to complete your signing process. So now, when we head over to our Gmail, you actually see we get a 2FA OTP code right here. When we click on that mail, we're able to actually see the verification code. Hi, Jane. Do someone just try to sign into your account from a new device or location? To complete your signing, please use the verification code below. This code will expire in 6 minutes for your security. So we're just going to copy this code right here, and then we head back to our sign in page. Now let's actually use a random code. I'll just use a 6 random code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll click on verify code. And you can see we get an invalid code error. Now remember, we set the trial terms in our auth.ts file. We set the period for when the code is going to be valid to 6. And also we send the digits to 6 and the alert attempts to 3. Which means if the users try to impute the code more than 3 times and it actually fails, the code becomes invalid. So let's actually paste the correct code right here, the correct OTP code. Click on verify code and we get login successful. And then it's going to write us back
to the dashboard and we have two-factor enabled. And now we can actually turn off the two-factor. I just type the user's password and then I just confirm disable. I've actually disabled the two-factor authentication. And now when we try to log out with the user, when we try to log in with the user, just copy the email again, paste that right here, click on login, and then we get a login successful, and then it's going to have to use at the dashboard without any two-factor authentication required. Great. So basically with this, we've actually done with building this robust authentication system. Now, if you enjoyed this tutorial, smash the like button and leave a comment below. It's going to help the YouTube algorithm to push this content to more people like you who are going to find this content very, very valuable and very helpful. And basically just consider this as a very little way for you to actually support this channel. And lastly, if you've not subscribed, ensure you do that so you don't miss out on the next video from this channel. I'll see you in the next video.